Welcome to Dualshock'd, the Brotherhood of Geeks PlayStation podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brett J. Rasmussen, and over there is my other co-host.
It's Spectre.
Yeah!
Can't see me this time. I don't really have a great setup right now for for streaming or for video recording or anything like that. I'm in the midst of moving things around, quite an extensive switch of my office. So everything is just kind of in disarray right now, but I'm getting new carpeting and everything taken care of this week. So it's going to be, hopefully for this coming week, I should be back up and running my new setup, which will be way, way better. Just for now, it is what it is.
That's fine. I mean, there's a reason why you weren't here for the last episode. It's okay. You're here now, and that's all that matters.
And it was painful too. I watched the last episode or listened to it, and I was like, oh man, I really wanted to chime in on a couple of these things here, and it's just like I can't. I hate to miss an episode, but I didn't really have much of a choice.
It's okay. Don't worry. There is still a bunch of stuff from last week that is from the last episode that is seeped into this episode. So we'll be talking about stuff, and you'll be able to chime in on things that I talked about last week on the last episode into this episode. So, but yes, this is
fantastic.
This is episode 66 of Dualshock'd. Today, we're going to be talking about Ubisoft Plus coming to PlayStation Plus. We're going to be talking about maybe a new Silent Hill game. We're going to be talking about Insomniac and Sony donating $50,000 each to abortion rights group after Jim Ryan's email controversy, along with Bungie chiming in on Jim Ryan's stance, Jim Ryan's emails. We're going to talk about the Embracer wants to do sequels. The Embracer group has like a bunch of studios under them. We're going to be talking about them wanting to do spin-offs and sequels. Last of Us Remake most likely will be coming out this year. And in our main topic, in our PlayStation conversation, we'll be talking about the new PlayStation Plus lineup that's coming up in June. We have more information of the games that are coming out for it. We may be getting trophy support for PS1 games. And we're going to talk about how this relates to Game Pass, and now we may be getting a better picture of the kind of atmosphere that we'll be seeing coming this June when it comes to the new PlayStation Plus versus Game Pass. But yeah, so with that being said, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, youtube.com/Brotherhood of Geeks, like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. We always appreciate that. You can also follow us on our socials, Dualshock'd BOG on Twitter, and Brotherhood of Geeks on twitch.tv and Instagram, and then on Facebook, it's the Brotherhood of Geeks. But I had to go ahead and get that out of the way. With that being said, how you doing, Spectre?
Doing great. It's part of me, I'm one of those weird people that I like to reorganize. I think everyone's kind of like that to some degree. I think I've seen you kind of do that too, like where you like to reorganize things and kind of find better ways to kind of display your stuff and have your setup. So that's the one positive of switching a room and kind of tearing everything apart is you get to kind of rebuild it back better and make it all nice and special. And I think this is going to be way better than my previous office. So that's really been the focus of my attention right now. I don't think I've really touched a game in the last week or so. It's really just been nonstop with this. I've done a lot of like video game adjacent things. Like I'm like organizing my 3DS collection right now. I'm actually alphabetizing it finally. So I'm doing that. I told you about this, but I didn't tell her, obviously I didn't tell this on the show here. I made the difficult decision to part with my Nintendo Wii U collection. I had a collection of about 117 or 118 games. Or still all of them sealed. It was a sealed collection, and I just made the executive decision that I didn't really want to collect for the system anymore. I kind of lost my passion for it, and I think that's usually kind of the best way to determine if you're really should be collecting something is, do you have any passion for this? Do you care about this deeply?
Yeah.
And I just realized, like, if I didn't have it anymore, I didn't really care. I just was like, I completely just disowned it in my mind. And I felt like I just was collecting it just to collect it. I never really had a strong attachment to the console in the first place. I just was kind of saying like, oh, well, I'm gonna collect this because I already have a bunch of stuff for it, so I may as well collect it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's never a good reason to collect something. So at this point, I'm down to just 3 systems I collect for, and all 3 of them I am deeply passionate about, and I don't see myself downsizing any further. I have my 3DS, of course, my N64 collection,
Wait. Hold on.
PC
Wait.
collection. Wait.
I know the systems. Hold on. Before you even go. Before you even say it. It's PlayStation.
Well, I just said that, but yeah, go ahead.
PlayStation
Yeah.
and PlayStation. PlayStation. Yeah.
No PlayStation, but I do have a fair number of PlayStation games for various systems. A lot of PlayStation 2 games, PlayStation 3 games here and there. Even a Vita game I still have, a couple PSP games, just for certain series I really enjoy, like God of War, for example. I have, I think, pretty much every game in that series physically, and most versions of them.
Yep.
Armored Core, for example, is another one I have where I have a bunch of those. So I have some one-offs here and there, but I'm not interested in collecting for those systems. I think that ship sailed a long, long time ago. Especially for me, like, I'm a completionist when it comes to not just games, but also collecting. I like to have a full set is my goal, and it is just it's impossible to collect for some of these systems. Like PlayStation 3 has like 1,500 games.
Yeah.
PlayStation 2 has over 2,000 games. Like, I mean, unless you were collecting these things for years and years and years, it's just not worth it. Even like new systems, it's hard to believe this, but like Nintendo Switch, I was looking at the other day. Nintendo Switch almost has 2,000 games already.
The PS4 is ridiculous. If you add like I am 8-bit and limited runs and all of that kind of stuff, it's nuts. I mean,
it's way up there, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, mind you, I collect PlayStation. I mean, look, like behind me. I mean, I collect PS1s, I collect PS2, PS3, PS4, even Vita. I collect for Vita, because I love PlayStation. But I'm not going for complete set. It's really the most important games. Maybe for complete set, I might do Vita. It'd probably be the easiest one to do. Depending.
Man, no, good. I'll veto that right now. I really would not recommend that. It is a very hard system to collect for. It is very expensive, even if you don't do like even if you're just trying to go for like complete in box. Or the only way I'd recommend it is if you were just doing cartridge only, and even then, I don't think you would do that because it doesn't really display well.
No,
and yeah, so I would just say, let that dream pass. Like, really just focus on.
Well,
that's really the best advice I have for anybody collecting anything. It's just focus on a few things and focus on things you're truly, truly passionate about. Because it's a simple calculus for me. I just was like, one day I had this epiphany. I was like, okay, would I rather have a little bit of everything or a complete set of something I really, really enjoy?
Yeah.
And I'd rather just have a complete set of something I really enjoy. I think that's you can kind of point to that with pride, and it's a lot more entertaining and engaging for me to kind of hunt for a specific system instead of just being like, oh, here, I'm going to grab a bunch of PlayStation games today, or I'm going to grab a bunch of old Xbox games today, or this or that. I mean, just focus on a couple things that you really, really enjoy is what I'd recommend. Or just focus on, like, make a list of like games you really, really want to have as part of your collection.
I mean,
that's what I do for PC.
I mean, for me, what I'm doing is with my collection is that I'm collecting games that I am excited for, that I want to play or whatever, but also are meaningful or impact, the video game space or whatever. So that's what I've been doing with like my collection of games. I wasn't even thinking of doing complete and like, full top to bottom complete set of Vita, it was like, oh, maybe. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute, no, it's hard as hell because of all of the expensive JRPGs and so on of that. So yeah, no, I forgot about that. You are right about the whole Vita thing. Um, but yeah, so what were the three systems you were collecting for? What was it? N64.
Nintendo 64, which is a probably easily the most expensive system I collect for by far. It's definitely not something I'd recommend getting into unless you're very, very passionate about it. Because I go for a complete in box, which
Yeah,
is
that's harder.
very, very expensive. I think what I'd recommend is if someone's looking to get into it, just go for cartridge only. N64 cartridges are remarkably durable. They actually display pretty well. I've seen a lot of YouTube videos where people have their cartridges displayed really well. For me, though, I knew from the start I had to go for complete in box because I sort of wanted to mimic that video store experience of seeing like the boxes on the shelf. And that's how it was for me as a kid going into I had a local video store back when there were video rental stores. It was that's how they were displayed. And for me, it was just I always kind of had that fantasy of I wanted to have kind of my own like little video store kind of setup essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So for complete sets. So that's why I made a decision early on to go for complete in box, and it is several orders of magnitude way more expensive than cartridge only. But at this point, I think I'm less than 100 games away from a full set. I've even dabbled into Japanese games as well, which are actually pretty cheap. And that's just that's my passion. So N64, 3DS is the other one, complete in box. I go for. I'm about 115 games away from a full set of 3DS. And the last thing is PC games. Of course, I'm not going for a full set for that. Of course, that's the one exception.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just because that would be insane, completely insane. So there's this one guy on YouTube I recommend. It's like LGR or whatever. He has a really cool, extensive, like complete PC collection. Like 99% of the big titles that are out there. He has a really large collection. But I am just going for games that I personally enjoy or games that I just come across and I get for a good deal or as part of like a lot of other games. So that's kind of my thing for PC games is I just love once again, it kind of goes back to my childhood. I just loved going into like a Best Buy or like a local electronics store and seeing rows and rows of big box PC games and
Yeah.
the artwork. And I just love that. It kind of takes me back, which is that's kind of where that's kind of why I do it. There's that nostalgia and that joy to that. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so that's really all I've been doing. I have not really touched a game in the last week or two. But I mean, what have you been playing anything or not really?
I have gotten my friends got into Magic, so like I've played Yu-Gi-Oh for like
Okay.
ever, and just recently in Yu-Gi-Oh, um, I I haven't been really enjoying Yu-Gi-Oh for a few months now, and it's only because the game has gotten so ridiculously fast. Um, like it becomes dice roll format. You roll the dice, C goes first. Even with Master Duel, you can go on to YouTube and look at like people playing Master Duels and these like crazy like combos like that people are just playing. Like it's the first 10 minutes, and you're just seeing a board being made, and it's just play this, special summon this, tribute this, link into this, and you're just comboing, and the way I miss Yu-Gi-Oh where it doesn't need to be summon a monster, set two cards face down, pass, but I do miss where it took 4 to 5 to 6 turns for you and the opponent to kind of start battling each other. The game has gotten so fast where the game is done in like 2 turns, maybe 4 tops, absolute tops. Um, unless you're
I
playing.
can relate to that. I tried out Master Duel, and that's kind of what I encountered with it, where it
Hmm.
just felt like it felt like the game just kind of became a game of
Yeah,
solitaire. Like you, it just
that's what. And mind,
it's
and like, look, I've played Yu-Gi-Oh forever. There was a deck called Spellbooks, and it is just playing solitaire. Spellbooks is all about searching into your deck to pretty much summon one monster with like 2 to 3 face downs. But you're searching into your deck so that way you're comboing into the right pieces, so that way you can make the board you want. And this was
I
back.
remember I like this is way back when I had it was as consistent as you could really get at the time. It was
Hmm.
not like a competitive deck, but it was an Exodia deck, and that was very much the same idea where it felt like at first it was kind of cute and fun to play, but at the same time, the more I use it, the more I was like, this is kind of stupid.
Hmm.
This is very gamey. This is just it's just not fun to play. There's no
Yeah.
interaction with my opponent. I may as
Yeah.
well. I would even do that. I would just kind of do like sample hands, and if I couldn't win by turn after like turn one, I just kind of assumed I lost.
And that's
You know,
and
yeah.
mind you, that's how an Exodia deck worked. Like you needed to draw into like one day of peace, which allowed pretty much both you and your opponent take no damage, so you can just do one round safely. Because you really don't play any defense. You're just playing cards to draw. Um, but just normal competitive modern Yu-Gi-Oh has become so instead of like 4 to 6 turns, it's now like 1 or 2. Mind you, the amount of interactions you have with your opponent is not the back and forth. It's now on your opponent's turn. So let's say the opponent rolls and they choose to go first. If you don't have hand traps, which are monsters that you can like pitch from your hand to the graveyard to stop your opponent, um, you lose. That's it. Pretty much, if you don't pull hand traps to disrupt your opponent or cards that wreck their board, like shut them off or whatever, because like the game has become like they have like 3 to 5 monsters that have negations, floodgates, um, disruption. So like floodgates is just the whole board is affected is all monsters cannot attack or have no effects outside of mine. I have monsters and stuff that goes. I can pay life to negate and destroy a card, or I can, remove a counter, or so whatever. The game has become to just build a board, combo off, build a board, and then if you can break it, great. Now it's your turn to build your board. But if you can't, you lose. So
I think that's something you see kind of commonly in not just in Yu-Gi-Oh, but in other. I know I played Hearthstone for a long time. I don't really play as much anymore,
mhm.
but it was the same idea. There's definitely always a backlash against decks that were non-interactive. Where it's just one opponent or one player that is essentially just playing solitaire and trying to get their one turn kill combo. And if they don't get it, they lose. And if they do get it, you lose. It's very frustrating. And I think most card games people enjoy some sort of for games like Magic or I remember playing Yu-Gi-Oh back when it was just like 1 or 2 sets were out
Yeah,
and there was not
yeah.
much to work with. And I liked it was fun to play against your opponent's monsters, and you didn't have these ultra combos and stuff like that. I think it's just at some point um they just kind of lost that, and it just became all about these one turn kill combo decks that are just no fun to play against and not really that much fun to play. And other card games like Magic and Hearthstone, kind of get around this with formats, but even then, that's not always perfect. It's you still have these kind of power creep cards and stuff. So yeah, it's kind of a tale as old as time with these
Yeah.
card games. They tend these a lot of these card games, like even going back to like Pokemon. I really enjoyed them. When they only had like 1 or 2 or maybe 3 or 4 sets deep, and then after that, it becomes sort of like it just becomes so hard to follow, and it just becomes like this. Yeah, unless it just becomes hard to even like that barrier to entry for new people becomes so high.
Well, there is like I mean, card games have to be card games no matter what the card game, whether it's Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, whatever, like they do have to become faster, because if it doesn't do some kind of power creep, no one's going to buy the new product unless you force them, like in Magic, where you have a standard format where you shift out sets and stuff. Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't do
Yeah,
that.
and
Now,
maybe that's the best approach.
well,
It's just to kind of just yeah.
so for me, I got into Magic where one of my buddies was like, "Hey, do you want to play Commander?" And I'm like, "What's Commander?" And they explained it to be like, in Yu-Gi-Oh terms, you have a deck master, like from the third season in Yu-Gi-Oh. You have a deck master. You have a guy who sits next to you, and that guy has effects that pretty much are active. Or in Magic, there are only like 4 creatures that have effects when they're in the command zone. I'm playing one of them, and it's Dragon. Um, Dragon allows me to, when it's Eminence, when it's in the command zone, when it's sitting next to me, when it's in the command zone or on the field, all of my dragon summons cost 1 less, which is great. And then Dragon, if him and our other dragons attack, I can draw cards, and then I get to put a creature, an artifact, an enchantment, pretty much a permanent onto the board, and for free. But the way it was explained to me is that you have a deck master who sits next to you. You play 100-card deck, only 100 cards, no more, no less. So you have and that's includes. So you have 99, which is your deck, and then the 100th is your commander. You play one of each card outside of basic lands, so which makes the game more affordable. That was something I was the biggest reason why I didn't get into Magic is because of how expensive it was. And now I found out about Commander, and like one of my buddies pretty much allowed me, said like, "Oh, you're playing Dragon? Here's all these cards that you're going to need. Here you go." And I'm like, "Oh, sweet." So that's what I've been doing. So I'm playing a lot of Magic. So I'm playing that, but I've been playing like a Star Wars a bit. I did a little bit of like stuff in the Guardian games for Destiny 2. The new season's going to be hitting this week. So by the time this goes live, it'll be the reset. So there's that. And I'll be playing a bunch of other stuff. I mean, again, we don't have really anything new coming out for a while, or nothing like big, nothing like huge, which is totally fine. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I've been up to outside of like, working on this stuff and everything else. But like on my off time, that's pretty much what I've been up to.
Gotcha. So I mean, you're keeping yourself busy, so
Yeah.
that's good.
So
Very
yeah.
very good for you.
So yeah. So shall we begin with what we always begin with?
Sure.
All right, news of the nation. Yeah, all right. So let us begin with the first topic, which is Ubisoft Plus is coming to PlayStation Plus. All right, so coming from IGN, Ubisoft has announced that its Game Pass-like service, Ubisoft Plus, is coming to PlayStation. Furthermore, a version of it will be available as part of the new PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium subscription tiers. Ubisoft Plus will be first available on the PlayStation platform in the form of Ubisoft Plus Classics, which comes bundled with PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium tiers. This version of Ubisoft Plus features a, quote, curated section of popular games, which is 27 at launch, which includes Assassin's Creed Valhalla, The Division, and For Honor. The Ubisoft Plus Classics will be available from when the new version of PlayStation Plus launches, June 13th in America, June 23rd in Europe. While Ubisoft has now officially announced the service, it was semi-revealed when Sony revealed their lineup. Valhalla would be part of that. We'll talk about that in our PlayStation conversation. But other games of the first 27 include Child of Light, Far Cry 3, Blood Dragon, Far Cry 4, Steep, South Park, Fractured Butthole, Crew 2, Trials Rising, Watch Dogs, and Werewolves Within. And Ubisoft promises that the Classics Collection will grow to more than 50 games by the end of 2022, and that there are, quote, more games planned in the future. And then they'll be having more than 100 games, day one releases, premium edition, and coming to PlayStation and that. All right, so yeah, what do you think of this?
Oh, it's just so Ubisoft Plus is it's coming to PlayStation. It's just being added on, or
Yeah, or like you like how EA Plus, I think I can't think of it, but there's the EA like premium service where like you pay a subscription and you get access to the EA games. Similar thing. There was even a tweet. Just the announcement was that Ubisoft put out a tweet saying Ubisoft Plus is coming to PlayStation. Da, da, da,
and
da.
I mean, and reading the article for this too, my understanding is this is going to be another additional cost, correct?
Um, I would think so. Because
Yeah, and
that's
that's
what.
I mean, and
But
maybe
I mean,
this is
the only reason I
I was
say
gonna
that is because the EA Premium service, I can't remember the name of it. It's like EA Plus or whatever. There's too many of them, but whatever. The EA Premium service that's on Xbox also. Um,
I
you
believe that has a cost. So
Yes, it does. That's why
yeah,
I think it does.
so it's kind of a prelude to my, talking about these subscription services. I like I said, I see them as a bad deal almost universally as a bad deal. For
EA
most
Play. I'm sorry. It's called EA Play.
EA Play,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, familiar with that. So yeah, so I think I see them as usually almost universally a bad deal. So
Mm-hmm.
this one falls right in line with that. Yeah, in fact, it's probably even worse because, in general, I would say, not to dig specifically at Ubisoft, but I mean they are part of the story here. I
Well,
just in general find Ubisoft games to be of much lesser quality in general. I'm
I
not
would
a
say
fan
that.
of really any of their franchises outside of like maybe like their South Park adaptations that they help publish.
I would say in recent years, yes. In the past, Ubisoft, I would say Ubisoft, like during like the early 2010s, um, they were making bangers of games just all around. Um, but it says it comes bundled with Plus Extra and Premium, so it might be part of that. I really hope so because that's at least a bonus. Um, but I wouldn't put it past Ubisoft that you do have to pay an extra 15 or 10 or whatever for Ubisoft Plus. Um, but I get maybe they'll start it like that. Who knows? But for EA Play, you do have to pay extra on top of, Game Pass or PlayStation Now, which is now going to be merged into Plus. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I guess we will see about that.
Yeah, I can't say I'm a fan of it. I just like I said, in general, I see these as a bad deal.
Yeah. Let's move on. Next topic is: will there be a new Silent Hill game? New Silent Hill game? Question mark. Um. So this comes from Video Game Chronicle, and I think you have a little bit more to say about this, Spectre. Um. But from Video Game Chronicle, Konami's Silent Hill plans could include a remake, full sequel, and episodic stories. Bloober Team is one developer understood to be working on a revival of the horror franchise. Multiple Silent Hill projects are currently in development at studios around the world. Sources have told Video Game Chronicle, and could include a remake, a full sequel, and story-focused episodic series. Last week, a collection of leaked images, or concept images, appeared to confirm that a new Silent Hill game is or was in development. This followed a Video Game Chronicle story from this past February, in which they reported that Konami was planning to revive the long dormant horror series. Details are emerging on what some of those projects would look like, as first mentioned by influencer Nate the Hate and journalist Jeff Grubb. One of the in development titles could be a remake of the fan favorite 2001 installment, which is Silent Hill 2. This then matches with what VGC has heard from their own sources, which has claimed that a remake will feature a reworked AI, animations, puzzles, and several new endings, and potentially released as a timed exclusive on PlayStation. The Medium studio, which is Bloober, has been linked to the franchise consistently over the past 18 months. Last year, the Polish developer announced a quote strategic cooperation agreement with Konami, months after the Bloober CEO, claimed it was working on an existing horror IP from a quote very famous gaming publisher. The Silent Hills composer Akira Yamaoka even worked.
Yeah, you got it right.
Yep, even worked on Bloober's 2021 title The Medium, and teased his next game project by stating that it was quote the one you've been hoping to hear about. Bloober has not responded to anything. So on and so on. So there is more that it says. It says that one of the projects could be a small episodic series of short stories that the Until Dawn studio Supermassive may be working on. Another company was Annapurna Interactive, which is the acclaimed publisher behind Sayonara Wild Hearts, The Outer Wilds, and Telling Lies, which could be working on the Stories project. But really, those are just rumors. And Konami is planning to release a new mainline entry into the Silent Hill series. It's not clear to who will be doing the next game. But VGC reported last year that a Japanese studio was working on a Silent Hill project. So yeah, I know you actually brought this up last week, because I think the leaked concept art came out last week, and you brought it up to me just in talking, just like you texted me, like, "Hey, should we talk about this?" And I didn't really hear much about this until now. Like, it was one of those things like, "Oh, that's cool," but it was very much a big rumor. I didn't want to really I didn't want to look. Not saying I didn't want to look deeper, but until there's fire, where the smoke is, that's why we're talking about it now. Where there's smoke, there must be fire. Now there's fire. And that's why, mind you, there is no confirmation. No one has said anything. Bloober just said they're working on a iconic franchise, which everyone then is defaulting to that. So I don't know. Spectre, talk to me. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess to preface everything, I mean, yeah, Silent Hill is, I would say, is one of my favorite series of all time. I would put Silent Hill 2 and 3 in particular as probably my favorite games of all time, really. I mean, I adore these games. Silent Hill 1, 2, and 3, and even 4, I have a fondness for. I really, really have always enjoyed these games. I played them when they first came out, and have been a huge fan of them ever since. That being said, well, first off, let's assume everything is true, and it seems like we're getting a lot of, signs that this is, something is coming. Because we've had we had a lot of rumor mills churning for literally years now about a Silent Hill, a Silent Hill follow up or a remake or whatever. It seems like this is more credible than the usual leaks and rumors that we've gotten in the past. There's been a little bit of confirmation to some degree on this, so odds are very high that something is coming. And for me, I think I'm not the only one to say this. I really would just like to see this series just kind of go away. I say that as, like I said, I say that as a huge fan of the franchise. I would like to see this just go away. I'd like to see more, I guess you could say, spiritual successors, which we have seen, like Siren, for example, and other games that have obviously drawn from Silent Hill as an inspiration. I'd like to see more of those. But I think for Silent Hill itself, we had three incredible games and one um, interesting, follow up game as well too. But you had three timeless classic games with Silent Hill 1, 2, and 3. And I think that's fantastic. And I think that's all we really needed. I don't think we're going to get. I'm really not interested in a Silent Hill follow up unless it is being created by a reunited Team Silent, which is the development team that was behind. Some of them left in between games, of course, and new directors came in and etc. But they were the creative driving force behind these initial games. And unless they are coming back and reuniting together to make a new game, I'm just really not interested. And I just think this needs to go away. I think we've seen this series drug through the mud for over a decade, for years and years and years, to the point now where the quote unquote good Silent Hill games are vastly outnumbered by the bad ones. We had Western developers take a whole bunch of stabs at making Silent Hill games and with disastrous results. And the series really just sort of became a parody of itself. And I've played all of them. I'm speaking from experience. I've played every Silent Hill game that's really come out, aside from like the arcade game. I haven't played that because I haven't been to an arcade that had that. I think they're really only in Japan where you could find those. And but I watched a playthrough on YouTube of it. So I've played pretty much every Silent Hill game there is, and at this point, the bad outweighs the good, and I just think the series needs to be put to rest. And I'd like to see people try to make new survival horror games, kind of in the same vein as Silent Hill, with a lot of the same themes and ideas, but kind of their own creative spin on it. As to the remake, the potential remake of Silent Hill 2, that also, I guess I am slightly intrigued when you said, they might be adding content, or trying to maybe you know uh, shuffle up the puzzles a little bit, maybe add puzzles to the game. That sounds like it could be a little bit interesting, in the same way that like a fan, ROM hack of like Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time would be interesting to play. Like I've played some of those, and sometimes they have some interesting ideas with those, and they can change things around in creative ways. So I am mildly interested in that, but even then, I don't think we need a remake of Silent Hill 2 or 3. I think those games still stand up today. They still look fantastic. The fan community for both of those games, especially Silent Hill 2, has been extremely active for years, and we have um, a fan patched version of the PC port of Silent Hill 2 that's been dubbed the Enhanced Edition, which you can download online. Not that I'm encouraging pirating or whatever, but I mean, it's a vaporware game at this point. I think everyone just kind of, no one's actively selling the game anymore. So I think, that's really kind of the definitive way to play this game at this point. Or just even the PlayStation 2 copy. The PlayStation 2 version of it holds up still really, really well as to this date as well. So we don't really need a remake of those. The only one I would argue could use sort of an updated, maybe just kind of updating the graphics to like a PlayStation 2 equivalent, would be Silent Hill 1. But even then, I'm kind of worried that's sort of like a monkey's paw type of thing, where like you want like a remake or remaster of that. We already got a quote unquote reimagining of Silent Hill 1 with Silent Hill Shattered Memories, which was pretty awful. So we already got that for pretty bad results of a reimagining. I think these games still stand up today. I think I would encourage everyone to play them and check them out if you're at all a fan of survival horror. They are fantastic games with fantastic storytelling. And I can't really. I mean, they've been talked about to death, so I won't really say much more about them. I'm not going to gush on them any more than that. I will just say that I think these, the series needs to be kind of put to rest, and I think we got three fantastic games and one pretty good game as well too on top of that. So we really got four great games. And I think that's enough. That's more than a lot of games don't even, a lot of game series don't even get one good game, let alone four. So I think that's I appreciate that. I think that these are timeless classics, and go out and play them. It would be my would be my recommendation. Don't throw money at this at this new stuff unless we have a really compelling reason to do so. Unless, like I said, Team Silent reunites, and the original creators reunite to, beyond just the composer, to try to take another stab at it. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. I would like to see this series, just kind of be put to rest. I understand, and I can appreciate, the nostalgia bug and how you kind of want to relive, that experience again. But I mean, you can already do that. You can already go back and play these games. They hold up really well to additional playthroughs. I've played through all of them multiple times. And aside from maybe I think Silent Hill 1 was the only one I played like once or twice only. But the rest of them I played through multiple times. They hold up really, really well. And that's what I would encourage our viewers to do. Go out and search these out. You can get them for free at this point, and just be satisfied with that. Don't throw your money away at another revival of these games, because we've just been burned so many times before. Or at the very least, wait and see. Don't pre-order this stuff. Wait and see what happens. Wait and see what actually is produced, and see if it's any quality. Watch a stream of it first, and then use your best judgment. For me personally, I already have four great games. I don't foresee myself wanting any more than that. I don't need a remaster of them either, because I already have a remaster that was made with a lot of love and attention by fans, for fans. So that's my thoughts on it.
Okay, and I get you there. I mean, like, it's very much for, like, I'm already been complaining about Last of Us remake, which I'll be talking about that later in our News of the Nation, because we got a little bit more information about it. But like with Silent Hill 2, that's a PS2 game that you said that was remade, or that like got in a remaster or something. I think you said it was on the PS3.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I didn't bring that up. We already had a terrible, awful port of Silent Hill 2 and 3. This was about 10 years ago now, I believe, to PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360.
Yep.
It was a horrendous port. I would argue one of the worst ports or remasters of a game ever created. If I was to make like a top 5 list of worst remasters, that would probably be my number one. It is horrible, and I would recommend that everyone avoid those like the plague, and go out and search for either if you want to play kind of the classic experience, play the PlayStation 2 or the original Xbox version of these games, or preferably play the PC ports of them with the enhancement packs. That's really the definitive way to play these games. I mean, obviously, PlayStation 1 emulation and stuff like that, that's really easy, and anyone can understand that. And for some of them, like Silent Hill 4, for example, I believe that's still on GOG, good old games. So that's something you can pick up for like $5 on there on a sale, just to have an easy way to play that. So that's what I would recommend. Go seek out the originals. Avoid the I think it was like 2012 that came out. Avoid the 2012 ports. They are horrendous and are frankly an insult to the quality of the original games. And actually, and really for Silent Hill 3 in particular, it was Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill 3 that were in that port collection. Silent Hill 3 has different voice actors. It's been completely redone for the voices have been completely redone, and they are horrendous. They do not fit with the game at all. It is a horrible, worse than a fan port of the game. I would recommend avoiding those.
Yeah, I mean, I get you there. I mean,
And I would plug another channel. There's a another YouTube channel out there of reviewers that have really gone super in depth. I think they made like an hour-long video just on that awful PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 port, Twin Perfect. They did a whole bunch of Silent Hill videos, very informative, and they went through and meticulously cataloged all the bugs and all the sound issues with the game with that particular port. So it's a fun watch just to see how how far they missed the mark for that, because it was really, that port was just terrible. It was astonishing that they would even consider releasing that.
I mean, like, as a business, like Silent Hill prints money if it's for Konami, no matter how good or bad. Like, people, there are. I'm not saying you, but there could be people who are excited for this. I'm not a horror guy, so for me, this is not. I'm not like, oh my god. But
Yeah,
also,
and I don't. And I guess I should add that an addendum on here too. I mean, if you're excited for this, I mean, I'm not saying that you're not a fan of it or whatever. I mean, that's fine. I get where you're coming from. I would love to. Who wouldn't love to have another a good sequel or a good successor to a series of games that you really enjoyed? Who wouldn't love that?
mhm.
I'm just saying that we've been burned how many times now, and there's no reason for us to expect it to get any better. And we've even already had a quote unquote attempt to remaster Silent Hill 2 in the past, and that was horrendous. There is already a great remaster of Silent Hill 2 that exists that you can play right now. Go look up Silent Hill Enhanced Edition and download that. It's pretty straightforward to do overall. Um, I would seek that out before I would look into anything like this.
Do you think that Bloober Team, the guys who did Medium and The Observer, um, do you think they could do this game right?
I haven't played those games. I know they were pretty well received.
I thought you,
Overall,
I thought you played maybe I'm saying the wrong name of the game, The Observer, or
I played Observer. Yeah, I was confusing that for a second. I thought you were referring to a game called Observation. So
no, no,
it's
no,
it's
no,
confusing because there's so many video games with like similar titles. So I thought you were referring to Observation. But yeah, I did play
no, the
at least
Cyberpunk.
part of the way from the Cyberpunk Observer game with Rucker Hauer, the late Rucker Hauer that started it. Yeah, I played through. I didn't finish that one, but I played through part of that, and I watched kind of the rest of it as well
Mm-hmm,
too. So yeah, so I mean, they seem like competent developers. I got nothing against them.
mm-hmm.
It's not a commentary on their quality that they can produce. It's more so just that I just it doesn't matter. The quality of the developer doesn't really matter here. It's more so that this is something we it just doesn't it shouldn't even be done essentially at this point. It's just it's we've been burned on this so many times. We don't really need this anymore.
Hmm. I mean, for me, I'm kind of like wait and see kind of thing. I have no preface or anything for this. So I really wanted to hear what you thought because this is kind of like your jam. For me, I'm just kind of
Yeah,
like,
and
cool.
I don't want it to be bad. I don't I'm not like applauding this by any stretch of the imagination. I really would love to live in a world where we had a great successor to these games, and we had great remakes and remasters. But That's just not the case.
Well, I get you
Uh,
there. I mean, I get it. You want this to be good, but because you've been burned so many times, you're like, please don't do this. There's like the reason I complain about WWE is not because I hate WWE and I want it to die. No, is because I want to watch good wrestling. But they don't book good wrestling stories. I've been burned far too many times. It's the same kind of thinking. It's the reason why you're like, I don't want another Silent Hill or anything like that is because you've been burned so many times. The fan base has been burned so many times by crappy remakes with like bad graphics or whatever. You fixed, quote unquote, fixed things because you got different voice actors or whatever, so it's not doesn't have the essence of the original game that people fell in love with or whatever. Um, and then you got these other Silent Hill games that have been bad. I think like Homecoming didn't receive poor reviews and all the other stuff. Again, I don't follow horror, but I like from talking to you and seeing like other reviews and stuff. Like there hasn't really been a good Silent Hill game in a very long time. But from what I've saw of the medium, from just the trailer and stuff like that, um, Bloober could do a good job with this game. I don't know. This isn't my kind of fight to be a part of. I have a different fight with Last of Us, but that's me. um, anything else to say?
no, we can move on. I know I took a lot of time for that one, but I mean, it's a series I consider to be like a close, cherished favorite. And there's not many games that I would put in that category,
No,
or franchise I would put in that category. So I am passionate about it
that's
in a way
good.
I'm not for a lot of other games. And yeah, no, I hope something good comes of it. I mean, it seems likely that something will come out. I hope something good comes of it, because we really have not seen that. Even after, I mean, how many attempts have there been at this point? It's like 6 or 7 different games at this point that came out after Silent Hill 4. I don't even know what they're up to at this point, and
Mm-hmm.
they've all been pretty awful. Some in some cases just terrible, in other cases mediocre at best, and none of them can hold a candle to what we experienced with the original trilogy and even the fourth game as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I hope I mean, it seems like they're competent developers. I wish them well. I wish them a lot of success, but I think they're taking on a task here that I think is beyond really anybody other than the original team. And I think really the original team doesn't seem to have any desire to kind of reunite, and they're all doing their own thing, and they're all kind of you know they're all being they kind of went their separate ways, and
Mm-hmm.
that's totally fine. I mean I mean they made between all of them they made like I said 3 or 4 very successful games. I mean, and they've gone on to make other great things too, like Kichiro Toyama. He made Gravity Rush. I believe he's working on
I love that game.
oh god, yeah. I mean they've gone on to do other great things as well too, and he's got, I mean, he's actually got another kind of sort of, I guess you could say, spiritual successor game coming out with that that Slitterhead game. He actually already made a successor to Silent Hill with Siren as well. So I mean, we've already seen you can kind of you don't have to just keep I know it's hard for companies to break away from a name because they love the name, they love the branding, and they love that it sells. But you can take some risks. I mean,
Yeah.
the original Silent Hill itself was quite a risk in its own way,
Mm-hmm.
and it paid off very well for them.
Yeah, I agree. But let's move on. All right. Next topic is here's the topic you want to talk about, Spectre. Uh,
Oh, great.
I I did not because who, but we have more to talk about with regarding to Jim Ryan's emails. Insomniac and Sony have donated $50,000 each to abortion rights group after Jim Ryan's email controversy. Um, and then we will talk about Bungie after. But coming from the Washington Post and IGN, because the Washington Post is the original source. IGN just kind of condensed it down a little bit to be a bit easier to understand. I'll be reading from IGN. Days after PlayStation President Jim Ryan asked PlayStation employees to, quote, respect differences of opinion amid the ongoing abortion controversy, Sony and PlayStation owned Insomniac have reportedly pledged to donate $50,000 each to the Women's Reproductive Rights Assistance Project, the WRRAP. According to Washington Post, Insomniac CEO Ted Price sent an internal email to Insomniac employees about the donation. Sony is matching the $50,000 amount along with any individual donations Insomniac employees make through the PlayStation Cares program. According to the report, Sony also plans to develop a program to provide financial assistance to employees that may have to travel out of state to receive reproductive health care. Sony and Insomniac apparently don't plan to go to publicly acknowledge the donations, and Insomniac employees are not allowed to explicitly mention Insomniac or Sony in their social media posts involving the abortion rights group. Price also told Insomniac employees that the studio is pushing Ryan to, quote, do better by employees who are directly affected, but that Insomniac is not currently allowed to make a public statement about reproductive rights. Quote, there would be material repercussions for us as a wholly owned subsidiary if Insomniac tweeted about the donation, Price reportedly wrote. Among other things, any progress that we might make in helping change Sony Interactive Entertainment's approach would be stopped dead in its tracks. We'd also probably be severely restricted from doing important public-facing work in the future. Nevertheless, Insomniac reportedly sent a, quote, near 60-page document to PlayStation Studios head Herman Hulst with messages from employees. And then it kind of continues from what happened last week. So again, last week, Ryan emailed PlayStation employees saying that the company is, quote, multifaceted and diverse, holding many different points of view in light of the leaked Supreme Court draft to overturn Roe v. Wade in the landmark 1973 Supreme Court case that protects abortion rights in the U.S. Ryan reportedly continued his email by going into fine detail about his two cats' first birthday to help PlayStation employees, quote, ease the stress of uncertain world events. Many Sony employees reportedly felt disrespected by Ryan's email, with one employee apparently saying that she'd, quote, never been so mad about a cat's birthday before. And then, of course, we've talked about it even before. We talked about it in episode, I believe it was 63, Speaking Out, where Bungie came out they were like the first to say that, and then Double Fine came in, and now there have been tons of other studios that have come out to say this, and then Bungie going on about this. So
it's been tons of other studios, but yeah, go ahead.
So this comes from Games Rant. So Bungie comes out. So Ryan pretty much said that from the email, I'll even pull it up again. So reported from Bloomberg, that's where it was originally from this email. And I talked about this on the last episode. You Got Mail. So Jim Ryan, let's see. Jim Ryan said, let me pull up the Bloomberg thing. He said, okay, Thursday, some staff at Sony Corp are seething following an email Thursday from the head of PlayStation that urged employees to, quote, respect differences of opinion on abortion rights before entering into a 5 detailed paragraphs about his two cats' first birthday. Email opens by addressing several current events, including the recent leak of the Roe v. Wade case. Many corporations have felt the pressure from employees to comment on the case, but most video game companies have remained silent. Bungie has come out to talk about it. Let's see. In the email, so here we go. In the email seen by Bloomberg, PlayStation President Jim Ryan didn't take a stance on abortion rights, instead writing that the company and its community are, quote, multifaceted and diverse, holding many different points of view. He wrote that, quote, we owe it to each other and to PlayStation's millions of users to respect differences of opinion among everyone in our internal and external communities. Respect does not equal agreement, but it is fundamental to who we are as a company and as a valued global brand, end quote. Ryan then continues to write on that he would, quote, would like to share something lighthearted to help inspire everyone to be mindful of having balance that can help ease the stress of uncertain world events. Saying it was recently his two cats' first birthday, elaborating over the next few paragraphs about his cat's birthday cakes, their noises, and his desire to one day have a dog. So it's one paragraph about Roe v. Wade, and then 5 paragraphs about his cats and wanting to have a dog. So that's a little preface. That's a little just to kind of refresher for if anyone doesn't know what's going on or didn't watch our last episode, just so that way you're caught up. Now, on to Bungie. From Games Rant. Bungie claims Sony acquisition won't place a muzzle on the company. Destiny 2 developer Bungie recently found its way into news headlines after speaking out in support of Roe v. Wade after the Supreme Court leak that showed a possible plan to overturn the historic case. Bungie voiced its opinion on the controversial matter, not holding back, as it claimed that overturning Roe v. Wade would be a, quote, blow to freedom in America. While some fans supported Bungie in its statement, others believe that the game developer should stick to creating video games. However, it seems that Bungie won't be quieting down anytime soon, as the company recently stated that even with Sony's imminent acquisition, it will continue to voice its opinion and, quote, stand up for what's right. Some fans were concerned that due to Sony's recent controversy around reproductive rights, that Bungie would be unable to speak on political matters following the acquisition. Notably, Jim Ryan sent out an email remarked that employees should respect differences of opinion. Excuse me. It continues with Insomniac Ted Price revealed that Sony wouldn't approve any statements on reproductive rights when the developer wished to make its own statements similarly to Bungie. However, both Sony and Insomniac recently donated the $50,000. And a Bungie community manager has attempted to put fears to rest, stating on Twitter that, quote, we are and will continue to be Bungie. There will never be a muzzle big enough to stop us. Fans seemed pleased with the message and were further reassured by the response of Bungie CEO Pete Parsons, who replied to the community manager's post with a simple yes. So, pretty much what it was, the tweet says, I admit I'm just a CM in the grand scheme, but I'm confident in the following. We are and will continue to be Bungie. There will never be a muzzle big enough to stop us from standing up for what's right. And then Pete Parsons, the head, pretty much said, yes, I agree. That's exactly. Yes. So that's pretty much where we're at. So, Spectre, what do you think? Because I know you wanted to talk about this. This is something that
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I don't think my opinion on this is really all that controversial. I think it echoes what other people were saying, where it just I wish these companies would just shut up and make video games. I mean, it's just I wish that I mean, just if you want to I think there's a right way and a wrong way to go about it. If you want to, I guess, make a political statement, I mean, these companies are in the business of making art, and you can infuse that, and they certainly already do that to a large degree into their games. And some people are going to react positively to that, and others are not going to.
Hmm.
But that's one way to kind of express, I guess, a political opinion. But really, in general, I think I mean I miss the old idea that that a corporation or a company at least ostensibly was supposed to be somewhat neutral and apolitical. I miss that stance. I don't think a company, unless it's a like a nonprofit or a company that's something that's like a cause or specifically an activist group or something like that. I don't like this weird crossover between corporations and politics. I mean, it's kind of like it's almost like Blade Runner esque. I don't like the lobbying. I don't like the this kind of this idea of companies kind of exerting political will and power. I just don't like that idea. I think a company, a business should be in the business of doing business and not in the business of preaching or engaging in politics and picking winners and losers and stuff like that. Now, individual employees and companies are composed of individual employees. Obviously, individuals have every right to express an opinion and to group up and have an opinion as well. But that's of their own accord. And I think that like I said, I'm not a fan of Jim Ryan at all. Or the direction that the company that Sony has gone in ever since it's really for the last several generations, particularly since it's moved to its headquarters to California. Um, but I just I commend him to some degree here. Credit where credit's due. Um, I think he took the right approach to this. I think he said that there's he stated the obvious that there's heated debate on this this particular issue on both sides. It goes back decades and forever.
Hmm.
So it's he just was encouraging people to be respectful, and whether he meant it or not, it was still the right message. And he followed it up with something that was lighthearted, and you could argue it was tone deaf to some degree. I don't think it necessarily was. It was just a silly anecdote about his to try to kind of cool the temperature in the room a little bit. And that's what I see it as. I think he did the exact right thing. He did basically exactly what I would call on these companies before, and what a lot of people would like to see is just he kind of just he acknowledged a thing was going on, and that there might be some tensions here and there and within the company, and we're going to have to get on with our lives and learn to live with each other, and yeah, that's that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And yeah, of course, obviously, a couple people were, a couple people at least were upset by it, but who knows how many were actually upset? That's an interesting element of that detail there, like how many were actually really upset by this. What percentage of the company was upset, and it just goes to show why companies really just need to kind of stay out of this stuff, because I mean, in Sony itself and Insomniac they're not they're not monolithic. They're not a cult. They don't have like one set of beliefs that every employee subscribes to. And I'm sure there's plenty of people that work for Sony and Insomniac that are that have one side are on one side of the issue, and plenty on the other side. There's plenty that really just don't care one way or the other. They just want to make video games or do whatever their job is and move on with their lives. So that's why I think the best policy is just to not come out and make a political statement on that. And that's really what we do. I think we've done a pretty decent job with this show. We're a show that discusses video games. We don't come out and make political statements on
Hmm.
every issue of the day. And if we were to do that, we would do that on a separate podcast, or we'd make a whole separate thing and
Hmm.
talk about politics. It's just that's not what people are signing up for when they click on a video for us. That's not what people want to see from Sony or these other companies in general. I think they want to see um, you know quality games and entertainment. That's what they're looking for. They're not looking for a sermon. It's I just so that's where I stand on this. And yeah, I mean, companies have every right to donate money as they please, and they often do, to political causes. But I just think it's in general, it's bad form. I think the policy should be, and I'm not saying that because I agree or disagree with them or one way or the other. It's more so to do that. I think that a company should be in the business, unless it's explicitly in the business of politics. It's a political party, or a political action committee, or a PAC thing, whatever. I think they should just stick to what they're good at, and I think that's good advice for most companies. That used to be sort of the norm, sort of the kind of the accepted norm for companies to be relatively apolitical. But I think in recent times, that's sort of been thrown out the window to some degree for some organizations.
Yeah. Okay. So. Okay. Because for me, so I talked about it on our last episode. Jim Ryan's email, I don't think it's as controversial as some, but I understand why people are upset. I understand why people are mad at Jim Ryan about that, because it pretty much we have differing opinions, and we're not going to say anything. By not saying anything, no matter how you like he pretty much is going, we're not taking a stance. Some people look at it as, well, because you're not taking a stance, all you're doing is helping the other side that we disagree with. Because you don't stand for this side or whatever, that kind of stuff. The problem I had with the email is that he then spent 5 paragraphs talking about his cats and wanting to get a dog and all that kind of stuff. It very much was tone deaf. I am happy to see that Sony and Insomniac are donating to this. That's great. But I will say something that
Would you be happy if they were donating to a pro-life group?
Pro-life? I mean, look, okay. So if we have to go ahead and talk about personal stuff, for me, I am.
No, you don't even have to get into that, but you see what I'm saying. It's.
I get it. I do. I get it, because
this is why, in general, because you're going to make somebody mad regardless. And,
I know,
and
it no matter what, you're going to make someone mad, whether you side with one side or the other, or even sit in the middle. No matter what, you're going to piss someone off. That's just kind of how it is. And I'm all about, understanding, respect. I mean, you and I, Bear, hardly ever agree on anything. But you're on this show every time, except last week.
Because you banned me. No,
shut up. But here's the thing. The one thing I will be like, what are you doing? This I completely disagree with. Is Jim Ryan and Sony, PlayStation, whatever, pretty much banning their own Insomniac, Insomniac, it went, we can't say anything. If we say anything, there'll be massive repercussions. If we go public and be like, no, we support this is why we did this and whatever, all that kind of stuff. I disagree with that entirely. They should be able to. Even though Jim Ryan, the head of the company, this is what he thinks, as a studio, they have every right to go ahead and say that. Regardless if you agree or disagree.
I mean, obviously people have the right to say things, but I think it's like I said, I mean, surprisingly, they took the right approach to this. They took the approach of, at least initially here, that's, respect other people's opinions, and, we're not, that was kind of the initial approach. Now they're donating to causes and stuff, and I mean they're kind of throwing their hat in with one side over the other. So I mean, this is the problem, though. I mean, it's because now I mean, speaking of people being upset, I'm sure there's plenty of people at these companies that are upset now because they don't support. They're coming at this from a different perspective or a different worldview, and they see this as appalling that their company that they're working for is taking this stance. And I mean, that's
but also people inside of Sony were pissed off that about what Jim Ryan said because of that. No matter what, that's what, like, mind you, we've heard more of people in PlayStation and otherwise are more happy that, Bungie speaking out and Insomniac is donating 50,000, and then PlayStation because of their
who's happy? Like 5 people on Twitter, or I mean, gamers at large. I think if you ask the average gamer, what do they actually care about? They probably care more about quality games, playing fun games. They're not really as concerned, I would think, in general, about what the political persuasion, or like what's Sony's
the
take on abortion
we
or
don't. But the thing is, dude,
campaign finance reform, whatever.
we
I mean, it's like,
we don't live in a time anymore where we can just put our heads in the sand and, you know, pretend that this doesn't exist. I mean, again, for us, where we are talking about this with as much, with as much like lightness and care and respect. For us here, like us, the Brotherhood, for us talking about it. But there are companies, and like companies have the right to do that. I do agree with you more about employees, that kind of thing, like, public facing the whole companies, but we don't live in a time like that anymore. The 24-hour news cycle has turned it that that's where we are. That's what is the world that we live in now. Is that, people are going to be like, what's your stance on this? What about this thing or that thing or blah 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 blah. That's just the world we live in now. You can't escape the 24-hour news cycle. You can't escape this kind of
yes,
stuff.
you can. Yes, you can. These companies could just come out and just like he came out originally and said, just say, with this, it's a, he didn't even have to come out and say anything. He could have just ignored it.
Honestly, he shouldn't have.
Yeah, that
Honestly,
would have
he
been the
shouldn't
better.
have.
That would have been the better move. I mean, look at
He shouldn't
I'm not.
have. Like, Bungie can come out, like, and I'm all like, I agree with Bungie and all of that kind of stuff. Insomniac donates $50,000. They say their thing. But Jim Ryan should have just kept his mouth shut, because like now he has muddied the water, and by like Jim Ryan, even in the past, has been just shooting himself in the foot over and over again. I mean, like, we've talked about backwards compatibility on our show, and Jim Ryan doesn't explain it well. Like, there have been so many different things that Jim Ryan just screws himself up with. Like, I miss the days of Sean Layden or Jack Tretton. Like, I miss the PlayStation who felt like they had a person that, like, when you think Xbox, you think Phil Spencer. Now, mind you, these are companies built to make money. They are there to make money. But there is this kind of like part of the having the fan base, part of, part of like being a fan of something is that feeling of like, I like this not only because of the games, but also like I love Sean Layden when he would like come out and he would like wear a shirt to each different E3, like when Crash was going to be a thing. The year before they announced Crash,
Some people like the pageantry of it, I guess. I don't know. I mean, for me, back when I think back to the time where I really enjoyed Sony and I really lauded their system. Probably the last time that happened fully was with like the PlayStation 2, going all the way back to the PlayStation 2. And it wasn't because of Sony's political stances at the time. It wasn't because of, Kaz Hirai. I mean, well, Kaz Hirai was kind of a character, true, but it wasn't because he came out with a funny shirt on. It was because they made a quality product with a great library of games, and that's really all I cared about. I
Well,
didn't care about what their thoughts were on torque reform or election
I
reform
I
or
get you there,
etc.
mind you, but also look, like, mind you, they still did pageantry back during the PS2 days, but like if we go back that far, I mean, like I was during the PS2 days, I was like in middle school. Like I didn't really know about E3 until I was in high school, um, or like late middle
I guess
school.
I'm
But
of
what
the
I'm
mind that
but what I'm
uh,
saying though, is that back then during the PS, like you're saying, like, oh, PlayStation during the PS2 era, they didn't talk about, voting reform or whatever. No, because that always existed, but it didn't bleed into the video game space as hard and as much as it does now, because of the internet, because of Twitter, because of Facebook, because of YouTube, because of Google, because of whatever. That's why I say, like, the 24-hour news cycle has seeped into everything. It's in wrestling, it's in video games, like there are political stuff that
I'm just saying you can ignore it. You can turn off the Twitter. You can ignore all these people, and it's fine. It's fine. It's yeah, I don't know. It's frustrating. I mean, I remember a time when and you could argue that, oh well, in some way, shape, or form, politics have always been in video games and blah blah blah. And yeah,
well, yeah,
some
there
degree,
have
to
been,
some degree, yes, but
because there's
it's
tons of games that are metaphors of
well
current events.
nowadays, especially, yeah, because we've lost all sense of subtlety. So I guess I long for a time, and it wasn't all that long ago, when you could tell a story and maybe it had political overtones, maybe it had philosophical overtones, or just a different perspective on life, and you could tell a story like that, and you weren't talking down to people, and you weren't trying to bash over their heads them over the heads with a message, and you let them make up their own mind on what they want to believe. I feel like it's with some of these people, like, their identity just becomes shattered if they're, God forbid, this company doesn't support and acknowledge everything they do and every belief they have. I mean, if you're looking for spiritual guidance or a worldview from your employer, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. That sounds pretty horrifying to me. It's like, I mean, it just seems so silly and backwards to me.
I mean,
Um,
this is
are you an
where
employee, or is this a cult? I mean, it's just like, it just seems so silly.
it's it is what it is. Um, like, this is where I want to hear from our comments, from our fans and our viewers, what they think of all of this, and have a debate and discussion about this. Because, like, the whole thing about us, about the Brotherhood of Geeks, is to have different different thinking people who love video games, who love nerd culture, who love TV shows and movies and all that stuff.
I mean,
But
for
we're
me, to
different.
sum it up and to put it bluntly, it's I guess there's two different perspectives on it. Either you're of the mind, like myself, where um or there's really three perspectives. I guess one perspective is you just don't care about this, which is totally fine. Or there's the perspective that you want you want these companies just to make quality good games and products and that you enjoy, and that's all you have really cared about, and they need to stay, they need to return to form and get back to doing that. And or there's the perspective that you see it that these companies have to talk down to you like your children, and give you a worldview for you, or acknowledge you, or validate you in a way. And I think that's kind of sad that someone's identity is so fragile that they need their employer to back them up on. I don't care. I mean, think about jobs that you had. I mean, do you care if your boss or your supervisor has a different worldview than you? I mean, what does that have to do, if anything? I mean, it just doesn't seem. It's just kind of silly to me. It's like this. It's like this Sith mentality. You only deal in absolutes. It just seems it's so silly to me. And if anything, I figured you would be the staunchest defender of what I'm saying, because you're the one that's always complaining about. I wish we could get back to some sort of middle ground and some sort of civility about things. And I don't think you get anywhere near anything approaching civility or any kind of middle ground or any kind of discourse when everything is a line in the sand and everything is an ultimatum and everything is black and white, and you must take a firm stance on it. And if you don't, then we're just going to assume that you're the enemy. If you're not with us, then you're against us.
I'm not, and like, look, like I have seen, I talked about this on You Got Mail on the last episode, is that I saw on like online there are people who like me, who are like, oh, this is like, Jim Ryan didn't really say anything bad. He said, like, we have differing opinions and we should agree to disagree, da 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 da. But I also saw that because he didn't take a stance, people were furious about this. People were absolutely furious at Jim Ryan, and all of that because he didn't take a
I
stance.
say just let him be mad. I mean, who cares? Who cares? Let him be mad. Let him be furious. Let the 5 people on Twitter that are angry about it be upset about it, and then what's going to happen? 2 days later, they're going to move on to the next thing they're upset about.
All I'm saying is that if a company wants to go ahead, Jim Ryan sitting in the middle is fine. I think his email was a bit tone deaf because of the 5 paragraphs about his cats. I think he should have just not said anything. I completely disagree with him, with like Sony and PlayStation pretty much going, Insomniac and other developers, you cannot say anything, or there'll be repercussions for that. That I completely disagree with. And for Bungie for pretty much going, we're going to stand our ground and we're going to say like that, like, because whatever it is, they're like, this is what we believe in. We're going to say this. Whether you agree or disagree, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about what we think of what is happening. We're not here to give my stance and Spectre's stance on this topic itself, but to talk about what is happening here.
Because we're this is not a political podcast. We're not here to we're not here to give an opinion and go in depth on this particular issue. We're talking about the response of this company and whether it's appropriate or not. But that's where we're coming.
And I also want to say, but by me saying that, or us saying that, that doesn't mean that we don't want to talk to you guys and you, the viewer, and as members of the Brotherhood, like, to discuss this kind of thing, because this is not an easy thing to talk about, regardless of where you stand. This is it's a lot. It's a lot.
But I think it's the time and the place for everything. And I think if for a discussion like that in particular, it should be in more of a dedicated political podcast, which, I mean, hey, I'd be interested in doing that. I think we've kind of talked about that a couple of times before, and we might actually be something that we do in the future. But I think if you, I don't think people like to be hoodwinked. I don't think people like to be bait and switched. You come into video game podcast.
We're talking
We
about
talk
video
about
games.
we're talking about video games. Just as you would go to a video game company, you hope that they're focused on video games and not political issues.
Well,
Um,
we keep going. I need to end it on this. This is what I'm going to end it on. Video game companies, PlayStation, and that kind of thing. They are focused on their games because if they don't make games, they don't make money, and that's the whole big shebang-a-rang of this. With where we are today, what people think socially has now become amplified to not only do you make video games, but you stand for this. They are now hand in hand instead of we make video games. Yes, we believe this, but we make video games. Like, this is the thing. They make Sony and PlayStation and Insomniac and Bungie and all of them still make video games because they need to make. They need to make money because it's a business. This is a business. But because of where the world has come to today, it is now your political stance or whatever thing about that's happening in the real world now is also defined into your company. Not only just PlayStation is known for God of War and Spider-Man and Horizon and Last of Us and Uncharted. There's more to it now. Just like again, it's the same thing for everything else. There we go. Do you have anything else to add to finalize?
no, let's move on. We spent way too much time on it.
I agree. Next topic. Next topic is that what's going on over at Take-Two Interactive. So I have a few different things happening. They're small little things, but it's all about Take-Two. First, Take-Two CEO has heard the frustration of the Save Red Dead Online community. We talked a little bit about this, where Red Dead Online has just kind of become nothing. Kind of fell off. There's been no support for it. Not saying it doesn't exist, and it's not being supported like online, but there's no new content. There's really nothing happening in it. But for months now, the Red Dead community has been begging Rockstar for more significant updates to the game on par with GTA Online. Has been getting using the hashtag #SaveRedDeadOnline. Thus far, they've received little of any acknowledgement until now. Speaking to IGN ahead of Take-Two's quarterly earning call, the Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick affirmed that he was aware of the community's frustration, but added that the fans would need to look to Rockstar for a response. So Rockstar is the ones that do that, not Take-Two. Rockstar Games talks about the updates that are coming, and we are going on an awful lot at Rockstar Games. I've heard the frustrations. It's flattering that they want more content, and more will be said by Rockstar in due time. Rockstar intended to continue support on Red Dead Online long-term. Zelnick affirmed that this was the plan. So pretty much they're just Red Dead Online is nothing is happening over there. There may be stuff, but eh. Next is that here we go. Come on. Why? Come on. Load up article. There we go. I don't know what was going on there. Next, Take-Two has no current plans to discuss for FIFA after EA split. So I talked about this in the last episode that EA and FIFA have split. After this year's FIFA game, there will be no EA FIFA. It'll be some other developer, whether it's Take-Two, like 2K or whoever. But EA does not have the rights to FIFA anymore because FIFA wanted more money. So, with that being said, IGN asked Strauss if Take-Two was considering working with FIFA in the future to expand its existing sports lineup, which is WWE and NBA. We're definitely interested in expanding our opportunities in sports, and FIFA has a great brand and incredible clout, but we have no current plans to discuss. It's understandable that Zelnick wouldn't be able to say much for now, as if there is any discussion about a clear deal. It's likely going on behind closed doors, but Zelnick's praise for the brand isn't the only reason to think that Take-Two might be interested. The publisher is one of the very few who could conceivably afford the reportedly very expensive license and already has a track record of sports titles like NBA, WWE, and whatever it plans to work with the NFL. So there's that. And then, so this is all within the earnings call. So there was a Take-Two earnings call. This is all happening inside said earnings call. They're just kind of these three different topics. Take-Two likes being an independent organization amid the increased gaming acquisition. So with Xbox acquiring Bethesda and Activision and a bunch of other studios, and now PlayStation acquiring Bungie and Haven and others, Take-Two still wants to be separate. They still want to be third party. Take-Two, like most other gaming companies, Take-Two has been part of a recent flurry of acquisition activity industry-wide. Its planned acquisition of Zynga is set to close by the end of the month, and its private division label snapped up by Roll 7 late last year. But what about Take-Two itself? For now, it seems unlikely based on the comments that Strauss said in an interview ahead of its earnings call. Quote, we're a public company, and we're here for the shareholders. That said, our track record of creating value in an independent enterprise is pretty terrific, especially if you exclude the last 3 months. We think there are plenty of great times ahead, and we like an independent organization, but we're here for the shareholders. He also offered context to some of the publishers' recent acquisitions of Zynga and Roll7. He acknowledged that the reality of industry consolidation, especially over the last 6 months, but he added that the increase in overall industry acquisitions wasn't going to change anything for Take-Two, whose growth, he says, has always been largely organic, but populated with some selective acquisitions along the way. Yada, 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 yada. So what do you think about all this, Spectre?
I mean, honestly, it was really hard to follow that.
Okay, so first,
I mean, it's a bunch of stuff I don't really care about. I mean, okay, FIFA split from EA. I don't really have anything to say about FIFA. The Red Dead Online stuff, I didn't realize that was still like a thing. Um, I don't know. I just don't really have much to comment on that.
because Spectre doesn't care, he's like, whatever.
I mean, I don't really have much to say on that. It just seems like it's kind of like
maybe the best one to talk.
You turned into C-SPAN for a second there. It just was like, who cares?
Well, I mean, again, like this is all in the earnings call, but I think the biggest one is that Take-Two doesn't want to be acquired by one of the big three. What do you think of that? Like Activision.
I mean, I mean, there's it's on that larger theme of the consolidation. I think everything is kind of just molding into one big giant megacorp. Like I said, it's just kind of this. We're moving more towards this, cyberpunk Blade Runner world, where 2 or 3 corporations own everything. I mean, it's I don't know. I mean, it can be. I don't know exactly how it's all going to shake out. Um, this kind of large monopolies. They have potential to wield a lot of power, and that's kind of historically why they've kind of been viewed with some degree of suspicion. But who knows how it's all going to shake out in the end. I guess I would prefer that everything wouldn't be owned by 1 or 2 corporations, and that things are a little bit more diversified and spread out, if possible. But I think naturally, we're not really in like a free market, but in a free market, theory would be that, if you have a large monopolistic corporation, there would be some incentive for competitors to appear, as that corporation kind of abuses its power, essentially. So, and I think we'll see that. If we get to the end of this and Microsoft owns literally everything, or somehow, or one of these companies owns literally everything, then it creates an incentive. Video games are not the only form of entertainment. It creates this incentive for people to look into other things or to maybe look into different aspects of video games, maybe more of like an indie market or etc. or emulation or whatever.
Well,
So I
yeah.
mean, I think there's a natural balance to everything, and things kind of slowly over time will kind of balance out. But yeah, this topic of consolidation, which just keeps coming up because it's just kind of been the focus for the last year or two here. With all these major acquisitions, I like I said, I kind of look at it with skepticism. I I don't like the idea of everything being kind of pooled together in one or two large companies, and I think it just creates a strong temptation to, um, you know, take people for everything they've got and to jack up prices and to make things miserable and to be lazy essentially. Um, so yeah,
Well, I mean, like, I mean, as you said, like, with, if there's monopoly, other companies will come and become competitors. I mean, like, for me, I love wrestling. My favorite wrestling company is All Elite Wrestling. All Elite Wrestling exists because people were sick and tired of the booking of WWE. And AEW exists now to give wrestling fans an alternative. It's an alternative. They're like, WWE, like I personally don't like WWE for a multitude of reasons. Um and not saying all elite wrestling is perfect, because it's not, but like it offers what I'm looking for more. So relating this back into video games is that yes, we could be coming into a place where all of these third parties may be acquired by Sony or Microsoft or Nintendo or whatever, and then that's it. We're down to the three. Um, and but someone will come. I mean, mind you, like PlayStation existed because Nintendo didn't want to partner with them, and they screwed over Sony, and you don't do that in Japanese culture. So then Sony made their own system, and PlayStation existed. Um, Microsoft made the Xbox because they wanted to get into the video game space in the 2000s. They were the ones who pioneered the online internet connectivity, hence Halo. Um, Nintendo has been around forever. It was Nintendo and Sega. Now it's like, we have the big three. There'll come a time where someone will pop in. Um, we shall see. I mean, the Stream Deck is coming out. A lot of people liking the Stream Deck from Valve and Steam and that kind of thing.
the Steam Deck.
A Steam Deck. What did I call it? The Valve Deck?
You call it the Stream Deck.
Stream Deck. Ah, sorry.
I mean, I guess I could be streaming on it. Yeah,
but
when
yes,
when I get money.
I meant the Steam Deck. STEAM deck. But yeah, that I get you there. Anything else you want to say?
No, I think we can move on.
All right, next topic. All right, so very quickly, 505 Games had their spring showcase, and they showed off a few games. Again, all of these links are in the description, so you can always go and look at them. But pretty much at this showcase, they announced a few games. They announced Among the Trolls, Stray Blade, Miyasama Chronicles, and Uduin Chronicles Rising. Which the last of which was released recently. So you have Among the Trolls, which is a supernatural survival game set in the forests of Finland. Strayblade is a Souls-like that pairs an anthropologist with a spell-casting wolf gremlin. Iduin Chronicle Rising offers a glimpse of the much-anticipated 100 Heroes, the same name, 100 Heroes. Miyasama Chronicles is a game about a boy and his robot from the developers of Mutant Year Zero. So yeah, I haven't seen the showcase. I've seen trailers and clips and stuff like that of this. They all look cool. Don't know if these are like games for me specifically. But But hey, go look them up if these pique your interests. That's why we're
Yeah,
talking
there's not
about
really
it.
much there that's blowing me away or anything, but I mean, yeah.
But yeah, but 505 had a showcase, and I wanted to go ahead and bring it up. Anything else?
No, we can kind of move on.
All right, next topic.
Kind of balance out for all the time we spent on a couple of them.
Yeah, I know, right? Let's go. All right, now next topic. All right. Spectre, you got to rant about Silent Hill. I'm going to rant about Last of Us. Okay. So I have said this multiple times. It seems like every week, every episode, this keeps coming up, and I got to talk about it again. But from Video Game Chronicle, The Last of Us PS5 remake is reportedly likely to be released in 2022. A prominent journalist has backed up previous reports that a Last of Us remake for the PS5 will be released this year of 2022. I keep hearing that, quote, I keep hearing that's coming out this year. GamesBeat reporter Jeff Grubb said on the latest episode of Kinda Funny Gamecast. Kinda Funny, if you guys haven't known, it is Greg Miller and his team of guys and girls who talk about video games and stuff. Go check them out. They are a good channel. They are a great channel. Go check them out. But anyway, The Last of Us remake is this holiday. He later added, quote, I'm pretty confident about that too. Bloomberg first reported last April that a remake of 2013's game The Last of Us was in the works for the PS5. It claimed the project was originally in development at PlayStation's Visual Arts Service Group before the studio was switched to a support role on the game. The remake's development is now reportedly being led by series creator Naughty Dog, which is said to have taken charge of the project following the completion of Last of Us Part 2. Reliable insider Tom Henderson claimed that back in January, The Last of Us remake could be released for the PS5 in the second half of 2022. And Video Game Chronicle has heard from their own sources that the unnamed game is nearing its completion. An unannounced remake project was reportedly spotted in LinkedIn profile of Naughty Dog quality assurance tester, although the description has since been edited to remove the mention of the game being a remake. During Sony's CES 2022 conference in January, Naughty Dog co-president Neil Druckmann said the studio was, quote, dying to share with fans the multiple game projects it's working on. Naughty Dog has for some time been hiring for its first standalone multiplayer game, which could be the result of Last of Us Part 2's delayed online mode, which will now become its own title. Last of Us 1 had the faction multiplayer aspect of it, and it was actually pretty fun in Last of Us 1. Last of Us Part 2 came out, and it's just a single player game. There is no online, there is none of that, but Naughty Dog was working on it. That's what this could be. Okay. And of course, there is HBO is working on a TV adaptation of Last of Us also. Okay, so 2013 is when Last of Us Part 1 came out. That is one of my favorite games ever. It's top 10. Probably top 5, but definitely top 10. Won't be Coder. Coder is still my favorite. Cannot wait for the KOTOR remake, but currently, I don't see why we need to remake Last of Us 1. Because this is being a remake, meaning not only, it's not just, hey, let's upgrade it to the engine that we used Last of Us 2 on, which Naughty Dog updated its engine with Uncharted 4, and then they used that engine for Last of Us Part 2. They also may or may not change story aspects and things like that. And that is where I have a problem. Because Last of Us 1, just like how Silent Hill 2 for you, Spectre, is pretty much perfect. that game, like I think I've talked before when, when they announced Last of Us Part 2. I think I even talked about it on this show with you. Um when they announced Last of Us Part 2, I knew we were going to get a sequel, but I was unprepared that we were going to be like, "Oh, we're still with Joel and Ellie." I completely thought it was going to be with just it's in the universe, but we're going to be following different people. Nope. We're still following Joel and Ellie. And I played Last of Us Part 2, and I really like it. It has its problems. It is not a perfect game. Like some people say, it does have its problems, but it's also not a trash fire of a game like other people say. But I don't understand why we need to get a remake of a game that, yes, next year it'll be 10 years old because it came out in 2013. In 2023, it'll be 10 years old.
Yeah, I mean, at least with Silent Hill 2, you can make the argument that it's a 21-year-old game.
Mm-hmm.
You can make that argument, or even with Silent Hill 1, it's an even older game than that. Yeah, with Last of Us, I mean, I guess it is starting. It's almost a 10-year-old game now. But it's kind of already been sort of soft re-released on PlayStation
And that's
4.
what I was about to bring up. Yeah, that like.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I'm not. I've said this many times. I'm not a fan of the game at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think anyone's hurting to play this game. I think you can pretty easily access the PlayStation 4 version. It was bundled pretty heavily, I believe, as well too.
It's
Um,
Last of Us Remastered is part of the PlayStation Plus collection on the PS5.
yeah, that too. So I don't think it's not exactly a challenge for anybody to get this game.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really know what a remake or remaster could really accomplish other than making some more money for them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to get it because I'm more curious than excited. And maybe at the PlayStation Showcase, whenever that'll be, um, or maybe at Summer Game Fest, who knows? But like, I'm more curious yet cautious about this game than anything. Um, because I love Naughty Dog, and Naughty Dog is deservedly one of Sony's flagship developers. But, regardless of whether you agree or disagree with Neil Druckmann very much has his own stance and stuff and has things that he wants to say in his game, whether you agree with him or not. And that was a big reason why, like, with him killing off Joel so early in Last of Us Part 2, and like everything about it and the way the story was told and everything, um people didn't like Last of Us Part 2 because of the narrative. The narrative is the most polarizing thing of Last of Us Part 2. Um, I thought the narrative was good. Was it great? No, because it has a massive pacing problem. But that's it. If you just restructured the story differently, still did it the same, but you just structure it differently, I think you would have had a more cohesive narrative. But Neil Druckmann wanted to be artsy, and that's okay. Like that's okay. I like me my artsy games. Um, but there are tons of people who did not like it because of how it was done. So like Last of Us 1 is such a fantastic game. Like how well it's acted, gameplay, just everything about it. I'm like that game was like the first game that made me emote. Like I had to play I played that and Saints Row 3 at the same time because like there were moments in Last of Us 1 where I paused the game and broke down and cried because it hit me in different ways. It pulled me in, and it's very much the game of that generation of the PS3, just like how God of War 2018 is the game of of the PS4 generation. I don't think there's any other game that defines the PS4 than God of War 2018. Um, so I'm more cautious about this than anything. And I think that's it for Spectre.
Yeah, I don't. I feel like we've talked about it 100 times.
I know, right? I know. Anyway, let's move on. Next topic is a little quick one. God of War Ragnarok will be getting tons of accessibility features. So on the PlayStation blog, they revealed for God of War Ragnarok the 60 plus accessibility options that are designed to suit players' needs. That's fantastic. So they added PC features, which will be added to God of War Ragnarok. So there's sprint, auto sprint, persistent DOT, which is always on reticle, aim style, block style. New to God of War Ragnarok is subtitle and caption improvements. So you can turn the captions like yellow and different colors, so that way it's easier to read. Subtitle caption size, subtitle and caption colors. You have speaker names. So you have that. You have even more like accessibility to caption, subtitle, caption, background blur, subtitle background, direction indicator, text icon size, controller remapping. Ooh, I like that one. I like that one a lot. High contrast mode. So you could do high contrast activation customization, high contrast color customization, high contrast background customization, navigation assist, traversal assistance plus, audio cues. Like there's so much accessibility stuff. This makes me very happy. Having games more accessible to people, colorblind or disabilities or whatever it would be. I am all about this. What do you think?
I think this is horrible.
Wait, seriously?
No, I'm just kidding.
Ah,
No, this is good. No, I wanted to see what you were going to say. But yeah, no, this is I know obviously I think this is one thing that's pretty uncontroversial here. I mean, obviously the more people that can play games, and I mean, obviously people are coming at it with people have different physical limitations or disabilities. I like I said, it's any efforts they can make to alleviate that, to make games more accessible for people. I don't really see any argument against that. If this is what they should be instead of focusing on appearing trying to spread a political message to people that don't want it. They should be focusing on things like this, which I think we can all kind of get behind.
Yeah, no, yeah, and mind you, we've seen with a lot more of the recent PlayStation games that they've been really doing tons of different features where you can just customize everything for whatever you need it to do, so that way you can play the game, and I love that. But yeah, let's move on. Next topic is that Embracer Group wants sequels, remakes, and spin-offs for Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, and more. So Embracer Group, which is the owner of Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, and other IPs bought from Square Enix from early May, sees great potential in making sequels, remakes, remasters, and spin-offs of the franchises. Revealed in the Colossal Holding Company's latest financial results, Embracer said that it had, quote, further strengthened its development capabilities and IP portfolio by purchasing Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, and Square Enix Montreal, which included Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, Thief, and Legacy of Kain, and other IPs. In addition to the sequels, remakes, remasters, and spin-offs, Embracer also sees potential in transmedia projects across the group, later referring to similar initiatives from companies such as Netflix and Amazon. Embracer Group also owns Dark Horse Comics and board game company Asmodee, which will enable the use of gaming IPs across other media like board games and stuff like that. They also had, let's see, the Embracer deal also included more than 50 back catalog games developed by the three studios. And also Embracer owns other game studios outside of these three, but those were the latest ones. So what do you think about that? Like that Embracer wants sequels and remakes and um, spin-offs of your favorite stuff, Deus Ex.
Yeah, no, I mean, we kind of predicted this. I mean, why purchase a bunch of IPs if you don't plan to do anything with them?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, this is great. It's good to see some life being brought back into these because I think there's, unlike Silent Hill, which I think is was I think sort of how can I say um we got our masterpieces, we had our magnus opuses in that series. I think there's still potential in some of these other series for follow-ups and sequels, and Deus Ex in particular was we got a first two parts of a trilogy essentially, and we didn't get a satisfying conclusion. So I think there's a lot of potential for sequels and different games and stuff like that. So I just hope that this doesn't turn into some sort of way to make a quick buck. I hope they actually put effort into this, and I imagine a company this large hopefully is competent enough to understand that, and
Mm-hmm.
it's hopefully they're realistic with their expectations for these games as well too.
Yeah, no, I agree. Um, I mean, I know Montreal did Guardians of the Galaxy, and I know you were like, but Deus Ex. Mind you, I love that game. I really hope that they still have the IP to that. Who knows? Um, but it was a very good game. I was very happy, and it'll be. I love the Tomb Raider games are fantastic, and I really want to see more coming from that. I just want good games. That's about it. I'm glad that they want more of that. That's
Now
actually great.
you want politics. That's what you want.
No, I don't. You know that I don't. No, I don't.
All you care about.
Okay. Do I need to mute you? I can mute you if I need to. All right, let's move on. Next topic is that Norman Reedus may have confirmed a Death Stranding sequel. Um, so earlier, it actually has been updated, but we'll get there. But um, pretty much Norman Reedus was doing an interview. Pretty much Norman Reedus, who is the main character in Death Stranding, he was doing an interview, and he pretty much said, "quote We just started working on the second one." Told Leo Edit when asked about Death Stranding, he said, "quote It took me maybe 2 or 3 years to finish all the mocap sessions and everything. It takes a lot of work, and then the game came out, and it just won all these awards, and it was a huge thing. So we just started part two of that." Reedus, who starred in the original as Sam Bridges, has seemingly leaked what could have been a surprising sequel announcement. Despite selling a considerable 5 million copies as of March 2021, Kojima Productions has been quiet about its future projects. And then it has been updated that Hideo Kojima has playfully responded to Norman Reedus seemingly leaking the existence of Death Stranding 2. In a tweet below, Kojima took on the role of an angry parent, saying, "quote Go to your private room, my friend," with private room referring to the rest area of from Death Stranding. It all appears to be in good fun, with Kojima adding thumbs up and love eyes emojis alongside a handful of images to the pair. Of the pair, including a somewhat threatening one of himself holding the infamous bat from Walking Dead, the show that Reedus made famous. Kojima himself hasn't yet acknowledged the apparent new game, but it feels increasingly certain that it will happen at some point. Uh, so we all know, Spectre, you want a Death Stranding 2, right?
No, of course I am. Yeah, I've aired my grievances in regards to Kojima games and projects many times before in the past, and yeah, I did not play Death Stranding. I didn't really have any interest in it. I mean, to its credit, it seemed more interesting to me in terms of like at least in terms of a concept as compared to just another Metal Gear Solid game. Um, but yeah, it doesn't seem like something that I would really personally enjoy, and it has its kind of signature wackiness to it, and I'm not a fan. I'm definitely a pretty vocal critic of his stuff. I kind of see him as sort of the highly overrated. I kind of see him sort of like uh, a, a director equivalent would be like Quentin Tarantino. Like Quentin Tarantino, obviously Quentin Tarantino has some degree of talent. I see him as highly overrated. Some people talk about Quentin Tarantino like he's like the second coming, and it's very similar with Hideo Kojima, where it's like they act like he's this incredible auteur, this visionary that is can do no wrong, and
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see it that way.
Yeah. I mean, Death Stranding is a very different game. It's that's pretty much the best way I can describe it. Is that
I don't think
it's not
in
a bad
general,
game.
I would say in general the hero worship is not a good thing, no matter what it is. I mean, even people you greatly admire, it's always best to understand that they're still people
Yeah, of
and to take
course.
the good with the bad. You know.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. Um, but I mean, yeah, if there's a Death Stranding too, I'm down. I can get down
Well,
with
I know
that.
you love everything, so of course you.
Me and my optimism. Um, but yeah, so that's I can get down with that. Yeah. But let's move on. All right. And then the last topic that I have for News of the Nation is that there will be a Twisted Metal live action adaptation on Peacock. Um so back in 2019 it was revealed that Sony was developing a Twisted Metal series, but now the wheels are firmly in motion. Cobra Kai writer and producer Michael Jordan Smith is show running, writing, and executive producing. That's freaking rad because Cobra Kai is awesome. Um the half-hour series, which will be based on an original story from the Twisted Metal universe written by Deadpool scribes Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick. Series star Anthony Mackie is on board as an executive producer alongside Will Arnett and Mark Foreman of Electric Avenue, Jason Spire of Inspire Entertainment, Peter Principato of Artists First, Assad Kizilbosh, and Carter Swan from PlayStation Productions, together with Herman Hulst, head of PlayStation Studios, and Kaito Sakurai, who will direct multiple episodes. So these are all different directors. Um, the show will revolve around a Motormouth outsider offered a chance to add a better life, but only if he can successfully deliver a mysterious package across a post-apocalyptic wasteland. He will be joined by a trigger-happy car thief who will help him navigate the dangers of the open road, including a deranged clown who drives an all-too-familiar ice cream truck. So we have Anthony Mackie as John Doe. Um, so pretty much according to the press release, Mackie will play the amnesiac John Doe, a smartass motor-mouth milkman who talks as fast as he drives, facing savage vehicles of destruction as he delivers much-needed supplies from one post-apocalyptic settlement to another, until he's offered a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make his wish of finding community come true. Neve Campbell will be Raven. In the game, Raven was a gothic teenager whose best friend was accidentally killed by bullies, was subsequently committed to an asylum, and vows revenge. It seems likely that the show would take the character in a different direction, but we don't have details of it yet. Um, so there we go. Stephanie Beatriz will be Quiet. It will be playing the character Quiet. In Twisted Metal, Beatrice's Quiet originates from a quote community that oppressed her into silence, but a press release notes that she will endeavor to find her place in the dark, chaotic world of the high octane action comedy. On that journey, she will become, quote, clouded by her need for revenge and form an unlikely antagonistic bond with John Doe. And Thomas Hayden Church will be playing Agent Stone. Um, Church will now take on Agent Stone, a cold and unyielding post-apocalyptic highway patrolman who rules the road with a silver tongue and a twisted iron fist, prosecuting even the smallest crimes with the harshest of judgments. He will stop at nothing to bring the law and order back to the divided states of America, killing anyone who defies his power. So that's currently who has been casted into Twisted Metal. What do you think about a Twisted Metal show happening, just in general?
In general, I mean, like I said, I don't think that any video game adaptation, whether it doesn't matter if it's Twisted Metal or any in general, just usually just they don't work. They don't work.
Yes, it
But
does.
no, it does not. No, they just don't work. But anyways, just going back to this particular one here. Peacock. I don't really know of anything like good on Peacock. Like I
Uh,
mean, so
uh,
that's concerning right off the bat.
I mean, the
Um,
only thing I watch on Peacock is the WWE pay-per-views, and
yeah,
oi,
so not
like,
exactly
and
high
it's
quality
it's
entertainment.
no, it's not. And like honestly, it is the app itself is not good. Like it is not good. It's I'm not a
Yeah,
fan of Peacock.
so alarm bells ringing just off the basis of that alone. Um, but in terms of Twisted Metal, I mean, it's uh, of all the ones to adapt a story from, it doesn't really have much in the way of a story. Story. I mean, I guess if I were to make a Twisted Metal show, I would focus on the kind of the very dark and kind of delightfully over the top Twisted Metal Black kind of take on the Twisted Metal
Yeah,
universe. Like I really enjoyed that game in particular. I played most of the Twisted Metals, but I really enjoyed Black. It's probably my favorite in particular, just because of the zaniness of the story of the characters of all the different drivers that were in the game. It kind of made me want to go through. I think I did go through and I played through pretty much every character, for the the wacky story and circumstances they were in, and just how kind of over the top and crazy it was and how dark it was.
mm-hmm.
I think you can make an interesting an interesting series based off of that show that game, I should say.
Yeah,
That would be if I was tasked to make a Twisted Metal series, that's the direction I would take it. I would focus on I would try to adapt the story of Twisted Metal Black and maybe have an episode focusing on each character, and it kind of all culminates in a confrontation against Calypso at the end, who's like the one that organizes the tournament of sorts. And I think I just think that would be more a more interesting way to do it, instead of kind of making this. It sounds like they're doing what they do 95% of the time with video game adaptations. They're basically taking a pre-existing story and they're kind of grafting a video game license onto it. Like they're just taking like a story about a guy in a post-apocalyptic story, and it's like, oh, okay, well, how can we sell this? Let's attach the Twisted Metal name onto it, and we'll throw in some characters and some references, and we'll take some of the more iconic things about the series, like Sweet Tooth and his ice cream truck and blah blah blah. We'll throw that on there, and we'll slap a Twisted Metal label on it, and that'll get people interested just on the basis of that alone. So that's the cynical ploy that's happening here with this, and it happens all too often with video games, because people are still people still sign up to watch this crap. It's just how it is, and for
so
me, I just
here's the thing. Like, I get you because like there are more crappy versions of video game adaptations than there are of good ones. But we've been seeing a bit more recently that there have been good adaptations, but there's also been bad adaptations, hence the Halo series. Because even the creator of Halo is like, that's not my Halo. That's not the Halo I created. Um, with
Oh yeah, have you seen any of this Halo series stuff? Like, I'm not even a Halo fan,
dude,
and I feel sorry.
oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
I mean, it's just kind of like it's almost to the point of like
I
parody.
have no
I mean,
idea
you
what
you have
happened there.
Master Chief with no helmet running around. You have the
I
cuck scene.
I have no
Um,
idea what like is happening there because
did
like
you like it's like I see it for like the memes that come out about like there's like a literal like cuck scene where Cortana has to watch Master Chief have sex. It's kind of like hilarious. Like if as I'm describing this
What?
to you, yeah, there's like
Oh
a literal
man.
cuck scene.
Oh god.
It's beyond parody. It's like it sounds like a bad fan fiction.
I don't like, and again, like mm, like
And I'm not even a Halo fan, and I feel bad about
so
what's
like
being presented.
so like Halo has tons of like story lore. Like I don't know what they did with that Halo show, but ooh boy. But with Twisted Metal, like you're like, why would you choose Twisted Metal? And I'm like, well, Twisted Metal has a great like lore when it comes to like just the world and the characters and stuff. But you don't play Twisted Metal for its story. It's the car destruction. It's the destruction
Yeah,
derby
it's
aspect of it.
it's the gameplay is what you're interested in. I think, like I said, I think in terms
Like
of
if
presentation, like Twisted Metal Black kind of made the characters a little bit more interesting because they had
yeah,
sort of this
and
wacky
like that's where
backstory.
like Raven, because I think Twisted Metal Black it was a PS2 game that came out in like the early 2000s, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, so Raven is from the 2001 game. Um, that's what he even said in the press release. If this show is Mad Max, like if you do Mad Max, I'm not saying just like take Mad Max and just put a coat of paint of Twisted Metal, but I'm talking about if you take it in that vein, where post-apocalyptic, big dumb cars, you have these like Fast and Furious like car chases, and then you still have a narrative which is pretty much just John Doe has to go from here to here from in the season, and like he just all of a sudden accrues a team of misfits, which is like Sweet Tooth and the rest. That I can get behind. That could actually be really fun. Having it be a buddy, a buddy movie. Like because it's going to be like an action comedy is the way they're looking at it. So, I could get behind that. Like Twisted Metal is easier to like. I want to tell a story. You're not so limited by the current narrative of blank. Like Halo, that's awesome that they wanted to do a Halo show. The show comes out and it's not Halo. That's why like KOTOR is one of the best Star Wars video games because it's thousands and thousands of years away from the Skywalker saga. So you're not bogged down by needing to have, Luke has to be here or Leia has to be here. Like you can just literally, I want to tell this story. It's in this universe. We're going to use the alien races from Star Wars and whatever. Blah, 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 blah. The Force, blah, 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 blah. Jedi, blah, 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 blah. Sith. Bam. Like, you move yourself away from that. Twisted Metal has just good lore, but there is really no big, deep narrative that you need to be there. Last of Us having an HBO show, that's another one where I'm like, okay, we're doing Last of Us. Okay, all right, how are you going to do this? I'm more cautious than excited for the HBO show.
Well, I think to wrap it up a little bit,
yeah,
yeah, I just for me, I'm just inherently skeptical of any kind of video game adaptation, film adaptation of video game. They just in general, they just don't usually work. And so, yeah, I don't have high hopes for this. I mean, I'll be curious about it. I'll check out some clips of it probably, but I will not be like actively watching this.
But yeah. All right, well, that is all I have. Let's move on to our final thing. Let's go on to our main topic. This is our PlayStation conversation. PlayStation. Okay, so our PlayStation conversation. We've talked about this before in one of our past episodes. This is Spartacus, and we talked about when the new PlayStation Plus that's happening in June. Now we have a bit of a better idea of what's happening because we talked about price. We talked about how confusing it all is. But now we have the games that are going to be attached to this, which may be a bit more helpful. Is this worth, if you want the top of the line, the premium, is it worth that $120? So, they pretty much announced their like kind of starting lineup of the catalog. So, this is what we have. So for PS4 and PS5, the games catalog, you have Alienation, Bloodborne, Concrete Genie, Days Gone, Dead Nation Apocalypse Edition, Death Stranding, and the Director's Cut, Demon's Souls, Destruction All Stars, Everybody's Golf, Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, God of War 2018, Gravity Rush 2, Gravity Rush Remastered, Horizon Zero Dawn, Infamous First Light, Infamous Second Son, Knack, Little Big Planet 3, Loco Rococo Remastered, Loco Rococo 2 Remastered, Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, Matterfall, Medieval, Patapon Remastered, Patapon 2 Remastered, Resogun, Returnal, Shadow Colossus, Tearaway Unfolded, The Last Guardian, The Last of Us Remastered, Last of Us Left Behind, Until Dawn, Uncharted, The Nathan Drake Collection, Uncharted 4, Uncharted Lost Legacy, Wipeout Omega Collection. From the third parties, you have Ashen, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Batman Arkham Knight, Celeste, City Skylines, Control Ultimate Edition, Dead Cells, Far Cry 3 Remastered, Far Cry 4, Final Fantasy 15 Royal Edition, For Honor, Hollow Knight, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, Mortal Kombat 11, Naruto Shippuden, Ultimate Ninja Storm 4, NBA 2K22, Outer Wilds, Red Dead Redemption 2, Resident Evil, Soul Calibur 6, South Park, The Fractured Butthole, The Artful Escape, The Crew 2, and Tom Clancy's The Division. So those are your PS4 and PS5 games. Then you have the Classics catalog, which, let's see, so this is where it kind of it's in. So it says here, I'm going to go dig a little bit deeper. So it says, this is all from the PlayStation blog. It says PlayStation Plus Premium and Deluxe members will have a selection of popular classic games to play with some titles that will show improved frame rates and higher quality resolution compared to their original launch versions. For select original PlayStation and PSP classic games, members will also enjoy a new user interface with menus that allow you to save your game at any time or even rewind the game if you want to do over. Also, players who have previously purchased the digital version of select games from the original PlayStation and PSP generation will not have to make a separate purchase or sign up to PlayStation Plus to play these titles on PS4, PS5. When these titles are released for PS4 and PS5, players can head to PlayStation Store and download a version for the consoles at no extra cost if they already own the digital version of the title. Some of the titles will also be available for individual purchase. Additionally, some remastered classics from previous console generations will be added to the PlayStation Plus Premium and Deluxe plan. Below is an early look at the selection that will be available. So this is from the original PlayStation and PSP. So from first party, Ape Escape, Hot Shots Golf, IQ Intelligent Cube, Jumping Flash, Siphon Filter, Super Stardust Portable. Third party is Mr. Driller, Tekken 2, Worms World Party, Worms Armageddon. And then you have the remasters of Ape Escape 2, Arc the Lad, Twilight of the Spirits, Dark Cloud 2, Fantavision, Hot Shots Tenets, Jak 2, Jak 3, Jak X Combat Racing, Jak and Dexter The Precursor Legacy, Rogue Galaxy, Siren, and Wild Arms. Third-party partners would be Bioshock Remastered, Borderlands The Handsome Collection, Bulletstorm Full Clip Edition, Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning, Lego Harry Potter Collection. And then the games that are be available through streaming would be, so these are your PS3 games, and these are all for streaming. So, your PS3 games will be Crash Commando, Demon's Souls, Echo Chrome, Hot Shots Golf Out of Bounds, Hot Shots Golf World International, Ico, Infamous, Infamous 2, Infamous Festival of Blood, Loco Rococo, Cocachero, probably say that wrong, Motorstorm Apocalypse, Motorstorm RC, Puppeteer, Rain, Ratchet & Clank Quest for Booty, Ratchet & Clank A Crack in Time, Ratchet & Clank Into the Nexus, Resistance 3, Super Stardust HD, Tokyo Jungle, When Vikings Attack, and the third parties, Ashura's Wrath, Castlevania Lord of Shadow 2, Devil May Cry HD Collection, Enslaved Odyssey to the West, Fear, Lost Planet 2, Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2, Red Dead Redemption, Undead Nightmare. And then you have the game trials, da 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 da, and then new games will be added every month, blah 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 blah. Okay, I know that was really fast, and please go ahead and the links will always be in the description. Um, and also just to add a quick note is that we have found out that Sony Ben put up a tweet that Siphon Filter, the PS1 game, is going to have trophy support. Like they even put up a little video saying, it says, incoming from Ben Studio, agency intel reports that Siphon Filter will include trophies when it arrives on the new PlayStation Plus. And then they even took a picture, they even tweeted a picture of, and yes, you can earn the Platinum too, which is excellent work, Agent. It's a Platinum. So talk to me, Spectre, what do you think?
It's pretty garbage. I mean, you're paying what $120 a year for this.
For all of this, yes.
Yeah, I mean, the only way this is a good deal, in my opinion, is if you are already, or if you're essentially new to PlayStation, you have not touched any of these games before in the past. You've not played any of these games. You started gaming today. You just came out of the womb and you're born yesterday, and you just want to get into these games, or you can't. You've had an Xbox or whatever. Or you've been out of gaming for years and years. You want to kind of jump in and try a whole bunch of different things at once. Then maybe this is an okay deal. Then for anybody else, I mean, especially people in our position, I mean, this is a total waste of money. I mean, $120 a year is a fair chunk of change, and that can go a long way towards buying either games that you want to play, new games that you want to play, or using that and getting a lot of mileage out of that from a sale, and one of the many sales that occurs throughout the year.
Yeah.
And actually getting games and owning them permanently, and not having to be at the mercy of Sony when they feel like yanking games off of the service. I just think this is a bad deal. I think in general these Game Pass type things are a bad deal unless you're in a specific circumstance where you are, like I said, you're completely new to gaming, or you just have been out of the loop of gaming for years and years and years, and like I said, the recurring subscription model it just does not. I think it's a waste of money, and it's just because people have accepted this as like as a thing. It doesn't make it any better. Unless, I mean, for a subscription, I mean, unless you're getting something that's an active service that's being developed on. Like maybe like an MMO, I can understand. The bargain with that always kind of made some degree of sense with an MMO, because you're paying for a service and a continuous service where people play together in a shared environment. So that's a little bit different. But I mean, for in general, subscriptions I think are a bad deal for consumers. I think they're a fantastic deal for companies and corporations, because they guarantee revenue and a reliable, consistent payment. For month to month, so I think they're fantastic for corporations, not so much for consumers, aside from very special situations. I mean, it's not all bad in here. I mean, I like the idea of them adding trophy support to, I mean, obviously, like I said, I'm not on PlayStation anymore, but, I don't have a PlayStation system, and I don't plan to get a PlayStation system. But I like the idea. I like the idea of, trophy support being added to classic games. I think that's a cool idea. It's something I've kind of always asked for back when I was on the system. So that is good news. But otherwise, in general, I think it's a bad deal.
Mind you, we all know that you are not a fan. I mean, we talked about this in This is Spartacus, that you don't like subscription services in general. Like this, you don't like this kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, I don't
general.
think they're a good deal. And even things that I could actually participate in, like Game Pass, for example. Xbox Game Pass has a when you sign up for Xbox Game Pass, you also get the PC Game Pass as well too, which has actually been really. I noticed that last year was really being heavily marketed. The PC Game Pass in particular is being very heavily marketed.
Yes,
and at least in the circles I traveled in, we see it as kind of a scam. We see it as pointless. In terms of PC gamers predominantly are used to they're used to getting games in one of two fashions. Either they get them for free because they're just given away for free, or they're vaporware, or they're in some cases people just crack them and pirate them outright, or they're getting that they get the game at a extreme deep discount through like a Steam sale or on GOG or whatever. So that's the two ways that PC gamers are
So you
used
don't buy
to
games day one, do
acquiring
you?
it.
You don't buy games day one, do you?
Not unless it's something I really am curious about or want to play. Like the last game I bought, I didn't even buy it day one, but I bought it launch window, so I bought it at full price. Was Ghostwire Tokyo,
Mm-hmm.
Because I was curious about that game. I wanted to try it out, and I didn't want to wait. So that one I did buy at the equivalent of full retail price for that one.
Yeah.
But in general, yes. Usually my strategy and what most people do is they you know, they see previews for a game, or they see a game on the horizon, they throw it in their wish list, and then eventually I get notified whenever there's a sale, and then eventually I'll pick up the game when it's 30, 40, 50, 60% off or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, so I do also have the list of the Game Pass games. I'm not going to go through the list of that. It's huge, only because Game Pass has been around longer. But we talked about, or I think it's either from one of the past episodes. Maybe I talked about it last week or in the last episode. But like Jim Ryan and even PlayStation talked about how PlayStation, if they did day one games, they would have to pretty much they would be losing money if they did. I'm curious. I think I talked about yeah, so
I know we talked about that before. Yeah, and I think my conclusion was it was just it was it was
yeah.
just a case of
Oh, here
uh,
because the thing is, I talked about this in the last episode. You got mail, because this is from their PlayStation executive Hiroki Totoki. He talked about how, and it was during a financial call. We've been getting like again, the quarter is kind of ending. I think Q2 is like Q2, either Q1 just ended. Yeah, Q1 just ended. So we're going into Q2 or whatever. Because Q3 is like the like in the middle of summer, and then Q4 is like October, and then going into January. Um, but he pretty much said that what would happen if they put AAA titles like God of War Ragnarok or Horizon Forbidden West? Why don't they put them day one on Plus like Game Pass does? And he says that AAA type titles on PS5, if we distribute that on the subscription services, we may need to shrink the investment needed for that, and that will deteriorate the first party title quality, and that is our concern. So we want to make sure we spend the appropriate development costs to have solid products and titles to be introduced to the right manner. Which I agree. If you put it on the subscription service, you're pretty much, you have to spread the $120 or even like the $60 if you want, but it is the 120. Let's use the max. You still have to spread that out further than just, okay, you're paying this for the licenses, you're paying this, piece of this is for the licenses, piece of it is going to the servers and whatever, because it's also PlayStation Plus. I understand, and also Xbox has more money to blow than Sony does. Microsoft has money that they don't know what to do with, hence why they just bought Activision, because they could. Sony can't do that. Sony doesn't have, they do have money to spend, but they do not have that kind of money to spend, if that makes any sense. And like, people buy PlayStation games like God of War and Marvel Spider-Man because of the title. I mean, Pete, dude, I remember like some friends of mine bought a PS4 when Marvel Spider-Man came out. They only play Xbox, so they only play on PC, but they bought a PS4 to play Marvel Spider-Man. Um, that is a thing. That is a, like, people will buy systems for that kind of stuff. And it is money being left on the table if they don't put it on, if they put it on Plus. Um so I just think it would be, with this, like, it's so hard. Like, I think the pricing is just not the correct price. You're doubling it up to 120 for PlayStation Now, and, like, mind you, having trophy support, you have PS1, PSP, PS2, PS4, and PS5 games that you get to download. You still have to stream PS3 games, which is still because of the Gaikai acquisition back in, like, forever ago. Because those games and whatever have been, like, coded in that way. And I think there could be a way to be able to code it so that way you do it downloaded, or you download it, but, like, there's a lot of time, there's a lot of work, there's a lot of effort, and I don't think they want to put in that time to do that. I mean, the lineup itself, it's not bad. Like, looking at it, I mean,
Yeah, no, I mean it is kind of a who's who of, like, when you think of like big PlayStation games over the last several generations and going back. I mean, it is a logical list. You get some great titles in there. I just don't think it does much for someone like you or even someone like me that's already played probably 2/3 of those games, if not more. I don't really see what benefit you're getting out of it. I think this is better for people that are a little bit more casual, in terms of,
but
it's not really meant for you or me.
I get you there, but then the pricing that I have a problem is the problem. Who casually is going to spend $120 in it for a year? I mean, mind you, I think per month it's like $18 per month or something.
Yeah, but I mean, when you put it out over, like $10 a month
Mm-hmm.
for sort of like a, that library of games, I guess, if you're someone that hasn't played any of those before, it's not a horrifying deal, I guess. But even still, I just am of the mind that, like I said, it's just, I think that money's better spent in other ways.
Yeah, I just, like, with that, I mean, like, just looking at the Game Pass games, I mean, like, mind you, it's been around longer, but, like, with Game Pass, like, Game Pass is a very good deal. It's $10 per month. You can pay $15 per month for Game Pass Ultimate, which is still cheaper than the Plus Premium, which is $18 per month. They don't have a whole 1 year piece, but we did the math on This Is Spartacus when we did it as a year. Um, I don't know. I mean, yes, you are correct. For people like us who have played video games over countless generations, um, this is nice, and I will say, as someone who has played them, getting trophies for PS1 games, that's amazing. I mean, mind you, my brother loves PlayStation Now. He's had PlayStation Now for about maybe a year or two, maybe a little more. But, like, I remember talking to him, and I asked him about this and all that kind of stuff, and he's like, "Oh my god, dude, I can get trophies." Like, he even, like, he messaged me to be like, "Dude, you can get trophies for Ape Escape," and I'm like, "What?" Um, I like that support. I like it that it kind of gives me a reason to be like, I may want to play Ape Escape again. I may want to play these PS1 games to get that platinum. Um, that is definitely as a trophy hunter like me. Um, that is definitely something that goes like. But I still think the pricing is still too much. There's got to be some way, and maybe they're like, again, this is the pricing. It's 120. You're pretty much paying double for both, which it's nothing really has changed. But now they're just putting it into one service. because PlayStation couldn't figure out how to market PlayStation Now. So might as well put it with Plus, which everyone knows. Just put it into there, and then now you do this. But you have all these like tiers, just like, dude, you have two of them. You get PlayStation Plus, which is the normal one, and then you have the top tier, which is you get everything. And then, or maybe you could sell PlayStation Plus, like Game Pass. You can buy Game Pass without Live. If you don't care about playing online, you can buy Game Pass by itself, and you have fun. There should be a way that I don't need to have Plus, which gives me online, but I want this catalog, which that's what PlayStation Now was. There should be a way to get access to the catalog without the need to have normal Plus. But again, they're just going, you either get normal Plus, and then if you want the library, you got to tack it on top of the Plus, which I don't know. I think this is going to be one of those things where when it comes out, like when it comes out, I'm going to be spending the $120 on it, so that way I can kind of see how this plays, how it goes, and that kind of thing. But I think that's really going to put it to the test. Because even when they announced Game Pass, I'm like, what are you doing? What is this? And even then, like, I'm not really like a fan of Game Pass, because I get why it's very consumer friendly, and this is Microsoft's model. This is the game plan, is to get them into subscriptions. The continuous cash flow of money. But the problem that I have with Game Pass is that people will just kind of, like with Netflix or whatever, if there's a show that, unless it's one of the more popular shows, like Orange is the New Black or The Witcher or Stranger Things, whatever. If it's not in the social zeitgeist, if someone pops on something on Netflix or Disney Plus and sees something, they'll watch it. Maybe they'll like it, maybe they don't. But it's the ooh, a piece of candy, ooh, it's shiny kind of mentality, where someone will go ahead and download the Halo Master Chief Collection, play it for a little bit. I want to play something else. I'm gonna go play Jedi Fallen Order. I only played a few hours of it. I'm gonna go move on to whatever game.
Yeah, it's kind of this ADHD way to play games. Right?
Yeah. Again, I agree with PlayStation's thinking of not putting it on Plus, because, like, and mind you, who knows? Like, I guess we'll see the quality of games when it comes to Xbox exclusives. Because, like, Redfall and Starfield have been pushed back into next year. Those were two very key games for Xbox for this year. Now they've been pushed back into 2023. Xbox has nothing this year. When it comes to why should I get an Xbox, they have nothing. They literally have nothing. It's just your third parties. They'll get Forza, because I know there'll be I think there's Forza 7 or 8 is this year. But that's not enough. That is a niche game, and Forza's great, and it is a great game, but it is not enough for me to do that. Hellblade is probably the only one that should be coming out this one. Hellblade 2. But I don't think that game, unless it's like it blows people out of the water when it comes out. But it's not like Starfield is that game that goes, this is why you gotta have an Xbox. While PlayStation got Horizon Forbidden West, mind you, all of its momentum got eaten up by Elden Ring for good reason, but all of the momentum that Horizon had got pretty much taken away once Elden Ring came out. Elden Ring is the game everyone's talking about. And then God of War Ragnarok is going to come out, later this year. We'll see how that goes. We've gotten, Gran Turismo 7, regardless of all of its terrible microtransaction bullcrap, still an exclusive that came out on the PS5 that shows off at least the graphics of the PS5. There are problems with that game, but the point I'm trying to make is that there have been exclusives that have come out for PlayStation, and Xbox really hasn't gotten anything. Where's the next Fable game? Where's the not Forspoken, but like Awoken, like the Obsidian RPG game? There's a lot of games that Microsoft has been working on we haven't heard anything from. Psychonauts 2 is a phenomenal game, and that is an
Well, I think I mean we're probably going to see a lot more of them relatively soon here. There's going to be the presentation coming up in just a couple of weeks here.
yeah.
So I mean, we'll probably have a lot more to go off of then. But I think the value judgment. I mean, we're kind of getting off on a tangent here, but the value for the Series X, for example, is more so in it's a solid, powerful console
Mm,
that's a little bit more readily available right now,
yeah.
and for a lot of people, the exclusives really don't matter anyway. So
Hmm.
it's that's just kind of what it comes down to.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, and we've talked about this before. Is that people buy sit like we talked about is that you know people just want to play the new stuff. They'll forego their ecosystem and get an Xbox if they had a PlayStation, but they want to play the next FIFA or Madden or Call of Duty. They want to play it on the next generation of console, but if they can get a PS5, well, screw it. I'll get an Xbox, whatever. So, I don't know. This is good. This is better news than I was expecting. Um, and I think
I mean,
it's
I'll stand by what I said. I think if you gave me the choice right now, let's say PC didn't exist,
mhm.
um, and I had to choose between consoles, I probably go for the Xbox at this point. I think it gives a better overall value. I think if you had to get like an Xbox with Game Pass or whatever, I mean, the day one of their big exclusive titles is not a terrible deal.
It's not, and
Uh,
that is a massive draw. That is a massive draw to people, and I understand business wise why PlayStation's like, no, we are not doing that. Because if they do, that they lose, they then have to cut costs somewhere. And as a business, I understand and I agree with it. But for consumers, as a video gamer, spend $10 per month and I get access to the next game. I can get Starfield day one by only spending $10. Hells yeah! Well, I'm gonna play that. I don't have to go ahead and spend $60 to $70 on God of War Ragnarok. I can just spend $10 per month to play freaking Starfield and call it a day. Like, I understand why, but the reason why PlayStation won't is because of cost effectiveness and how much money they can. Like, Microsoft can take the loss, Sony cannot.
that's really what it comes down to. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But as the list itself, this is not a bad
I mean, it's
list,
not a horrible list. I mean,
and it's
it
just the
has
starting
like I
list
said,
too.
like I said, it's a who's who of big PlayStation games. But I just think, I mean, I don't know. I mean, some people, I mean, are in different situations, but for me personally, I just think it's not a great deal. I don't think it's a great deal for you either, to be frank. I mean, even, especially as a big PlayStation fan, you've played the bulk of those games already. You
Mm-hmm.
own the bulk of those games. Um, for some of the one-off titles that you haven't played or that you don't own, you could just pick those up digitally or whatever.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's a great value for you. I think it's a good value for some people, but I don't think it's good for you.
No, I understand, and also the other problem I do have with this is that you still have to stream PS3 games. That needs to get fixed.
Yeah,
That needs
that's
to get
silly.
fixed.
That's really
That
silly in this day and age.
needs to get fixed. I don't know
I think
why.
it comes down to probably to the bad emulation,
Yeah,
and
and
it's
Gaikai.
but yeah, but still there's ways around it. Sony with it's a multi-billion-dollar company. I mean, they can find a way to properly emulate some PS3 games
I
without
th-
resorting to streaming.
I think it's just more of the time and effort and resources to do that would take more time than it is to just port it and move it to be like, well, you still got to stream these and stuff, which I'm why like and honestly the other thing with the Xbox is that even with Game Pass, if I wanted to go ahead and play Jade Empire or Marvel Nemesis or Jedi Academy or Republic Commando, I own those games. I own those games. They're on my bookshelf behind me. I can put those into my Series X and play it. I can't put in, Tomba or Jack and Daxter or Kingdom Hearts or whatever into my PS5 to play a PS2 game or PS1 game. I can't play the original Crash or Spyro on my PS5 from the PS1. Like, that is also something that I really wish that they would just give that option of having the emulator in the system. I understand by doing that you go ahead and take away people who might pay money to get now, but like I'm glad that they're
Once
doing.
again, this is where the PC comes in, and you don't ever have to worry about any of these things. But
Of course, Spectre. And yeah, I guess we'll end it with Spectre being an a-hole. All right. Well, yeah, I think we talked enough about the list and stuff. I will have all these links in the description below, so that way you can look at these and talk and all that kind of stuff. But guys, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. YouTube.com/Brotherhood of Geeks. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Tell everyone you know. Tell everyone you don't know. And please talk to us in the comments. Tell us do you like this new PlayStation Plus? And is there anything that we talked about that you agree or disagree with? Please let me know. I would love to go ahead and talk with you guys. And also, if you haven't already, please press the bell icon. That way, whenever we put up a video, you know we put up a video. You can also go to our Twitter, which is at Dualshock'dBOG. That's the name of this PlayStation podcast, Dualshock'dBOG. You can also go to our Twitch channel when we stream at twitch.tv/Brotherhood of Geeks. Our Facebook, which is facebook.com/The Brotherhood of Geeks. And then our Instagram, which is instagram.com/Brotherhood of Geeks. I think I hit all the socials. Yeah, I think I did. All right. Anything else you want to add, Spectre?
no, I think just trying to get my life situation organized with my new office and everything. So hopefully that happens this week, and I want to have everything prepared for not E3, but E3 time of year with all the showcases and stuff coming up here soon.
Yeah, man. I think we have like 2 weeks. We have 2 weeks until the.
Yeah, I'll be up and running easily by then.
And hopefully I can see you again. Yay!
Yeah, no, I got my nice new desk and kind of like a dual monitor set up and
nice.
everything.
So nice. So nice. Alrighty. Well then, with that being said, I'm Brett J. Rasmussen.
And I'm Spectre.
And as always, live to play together. We'll see you guys next time.